What up, Doe? One Pride. This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where one pride truly goes worldwide. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick. I'm joined this evening by Ryan McCluskey. It is a Wednesday, which can, as always, only mean one thing. We are back with the college football podcast after we've had a few weeks to digest the doings of the 2022 NFL Draft. Ryan, how are things?
Oh, good, yeah. Like I say, it's nice to be taking a break. We've digested what's happened, and now we're going to tie it all up in a little pretty bow.
Exactly. And, you know, we've had all this draft content there. I don't know about you, but I am looking forward to getting back to talking about the college game, to looking about some new players, freshening things up a bit. It's a fun time of year to be doing this sort of thing now because the new names are appearing, the new faces. It's a good time to be a college fan, a better time of year, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because right now you've got camp battles, so a lot of teams have decided they're starting quarterback, but a lot right now have had their spring games, so they've had both sides of their balls compete, so a lot of teams now have a clearer picture of where they are, and they're preparing for the soon will be the first game of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the spring games have thrown up some interesting storylines, and they say the camp battles are now happening. There are still transfers happening at this point in time, which we're going to have a little look at in a minute. So, yeah, just going to get some housekeeping out the way first. As always, here at Roar of the Lions, we have our Discord channel here if you want to come and chat to us about the Detroit Lions, about college football, about anything. Really, just hit us up with a message and we'll send you a link and you're able to come join us there with that. It's been a busy week for us in terms of the podcast in general. We've got our podcast from the Monday just gone. We were looking at the Lions undrafted free agency class in a little bit more detail, and also taking a little look forward to next season as well. And yesterday we had a couple of little mini podcasts come out, so if you've not heard about it yet, one of the things we're doing over the summer now, every time we do one of our main broadcasts on a Monday, we are now doing a little bite-sized brother to go with it, if you will. We love Trenton Detroit Lions, and our podcasts sometimes do go on for quite some time, and I can know for people looking for new podcasts, they look and see, oh my god, that's a 2-hour podcast, that's really long. Might not give it a go per se, so we're doing these little ones just to introduce people to us, introduce them to the way that we think, the way we talk, etc. Hopefully they will then start coming to listen to the other ones. So if you know any Detroit Lions fans or NFL fans in general looking for a new pod, send them in the direction of those pods. Hopefully they'll enjoy those in their little bite-sized installments. And you can also find what was supposed to be a mini pod yesterday that me and Matt did, the Hopium pod, looking at reasons why the Detroit Lions should be optimistic going into next year, but that ran on for like 90 minutes nearly. Apparently there's a lot to be excited about going forward, so do give all those a check out as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe to any of our channels if you're there and you do enjoy what we do. We do really appreciate it. Our Twitch subscriptions are going up very high at the minute, so, you know, appreciate all of you who do take the time to hit those buttons there. And you can also find us on Lions Nation Unite, the app run by Herman Moore for Detroit Lions fans, with content done by Detroit Lions fans. You can find a lot of great content creators for the Detroit Lions on there. That is the housekeeping done. So back to tonight. As we've said, we've had a few weeks off in terms of the college football pod. We've done a lot of chatting about the NFL draft in general on the main pods there, but now that things have settled down, Ryan, now that we're down to the bare bones, we've had a lot of time to look at some of the players, look at what the Lions have done. What is sort of your final thoughts about what happened in the draft and how the Lions did?
The draft was very messy. This class in general had a lot of red flags. It had a lot of umming and ahhing. It had very few consensus players at most positions. So it was like one of those, like say, one of those box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Like say, it will see. There's a lot of players out here that will boom or bust, frankly speaking. Like say, some of those will live up to the hype, and some of those, unfortunately, will fall flat on their face. So we're going to find out very quickly. The Lions draft was very good. It addressed multiple needs with limited picks and capital without giving too much up for those. So we addressed some dire needs. We were aggressive in the early picks, moving up to take Jameson Williams, and then we were happy to sit and take our chances and wait to see who fell. When some notable players were going off the board, we picked some up that could be some hidden gems in later rounds. So I'd say two of the better back-to-back drafts that the Lions have probably had in the last 10 years, but that's on paper. I expect some of these potentially won't work out, but I expect a lot of them will, and I'd like to see that some are going to be notable difference makers from day one next season.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything you've said there. Pretty much like you say, there's a hell of a lot of talent that is now in this team. However, it is on paper. These players do need to develop, but if Brad Holmes is able to land on a good amount of these picks, then our foundation is set. Our offensive line is ready to go. Our defensive line now has a lot of capital put into it. Picks rounds 2 and 3 last year, rounds 1 and 2 this year. That's 4 premium draft picks put in there. Mix them in with Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara, Michael Brockers, all on good money here. You know, they've really gone to town on the trenches these last 2 years. So, you know, the foundation is set. Hopefully it pays off and we start to see that going forward this year. But yeah, I like the draft. You know, we've said it was a good draft. Yeah, there are a few guys maybe, yeah, they do need to prove a little bit to us, but you know, the day 3 guys I think are going to far surpass their expectations. I expect most of them to make this roster, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how they develop this year. So yeah, very, very happy after this draft, and like I say, back-to-back good ones. So the foundation is set, and we move on and look forward. So yeah, after everything, after all these last few months, just grinding and tape, grinding on players, just draft, it is good to get to this point now where we can start to look ahead at what's going on in the college game going forward. So let's dive straight into it. So today we've got a few things that we're going to go about. We're going to take a little look at some of the dealings in the college transfer portal first, because that's still busy even at this point, which is a little unusual, especially around the quarterback scene. We're going to talk about NILs, which is, that's all the rage in college at the minute. Me and Ryan had a chat about this on one of the pods last year, and Ryan was bang on. This has turned into a land of chaos, so we're going to dive into that a little bit. We're going to look at maybe some conference realignments in terms of in-conference and the divisions, and then we're going to introduce you to a few of our favourite faces that we're looking forward to seeing in the 2023 or the 2022 college season, with implications possibly for the Lions 2023 draft. Before we go on, I just want to give a shout out. Flyod Condor is in our Twitch chat. Hello to you, good sir. Says, love the new variety along with the in-depth pods. Hey, look, we really appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback on it. That's why we're doing it. We're trying to make it accessible to everybody so more people can listen to us, whether they like the longer ones, whether they like the short ones. Everybody has a little bit where they can come and give us a try. We remain very active during the summer. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up, so these hopefully will stand us in good stead with our listeners who listen to us already, and potentially new listeners down the line as well. So thank you very much for that. Right, so let's dive in. So first, we're going to take a look in the transfer portal. There's been a few dealings happening around there recently. Teams still, scrambling to get their players ready for this season, despite the fact that they're about to go into training camp. They've done the spring games. A lot of things should be set in stone now, but they're not. And we're going to start with Ryan's team, Arizona State. They were looking for a quarterback. They had to go through Jaden Daniels' season last year, which wasn't the best one in the world. They have been looking for a guy, and they've found him, and they've gone to Florida for their quarterback this time. And no, don't worry, it's not Jordan Travis. If that was the case, Ryan would have, reneged his fandom, I think, of Arizona State if they'd gone and done that. But they've gone to the other big Florida side instead, and they've gone for the dual threat quarterback Emory Jones, who we've talked about a lot on here, really. The dual threat ability is there. The ability in general is there with him. Ryan, I know this happened a little bit of time ago now. I think it was after we did the last pod, though, but you've had a bit of time to sit on it. What do you make of the new era for the Sun Devils and their new leader at the quarterback position?
It's not looking good. the Sun Devils in general, this is bad. Because of the NCAA, because of them breaking the rules about having players on site during COVID, they have lost 15 scholarship players to the portal in one season. We've lost nearly every playmaker, and some of them have gone on to join rivals as well. The Sun Devils are not in good shape. Like I say, for a long time, we were the odds-on favourites for Spencer Rattler because he's an Arizona kid, and he made sense to try. But for other reasons, if we made a pass at him or if we even contacted him, he didn't end up here. And I think Herbert Moore was fairly capable and happy to sit on who we had currently in the room. We've got some young guys. I think the backup name last year, we've very rarely seen him. I think it's like Henry Buquet. We saw him very sparingly last year, so I did not feel good about the room going into this season. Jane Daniels, there's a very unfortunate video of when he enters the portal that the players basically go and trash his locker room. They basically throw all his stuff out and they're basically saying, like, get his BS out of here. He don't want to be here. So it did not end well because a couple of days before, he pretty much committed his future here. I think it was a tweet or a video that said he was staying. Next minute, he's gone. So last year, he had like 10, 11 touchdowns, but he also had like 10, 11 interceptions. He was basically 50-50. He was not confident in throwing the ball. There was games where those drives and those turnovers killed us dead in the water. Emory Jones, to some people, is slating, but he was like the third best rushing QB in the SEC last year. He had like 19 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and like 2,500 yards. So I think possibly against some lesser opposition, if he is coached well and put in a position well, he could flourish here. I think this is actually an ideal landing spot for him. He's got something to prove. We need bodies. We need experience. We've gone and got an experienced quarterback that some people aren't too high on, but I think is a standout in this room. If he doesn't win the job or anything happens like that, then something has gone drastically wrong. I don't think we're going to have a great year, but I'm putting all my faith in him. It's the coaching staff that I have real issues with. I'm amazed Herm Edwards is still here. Like, there's such little discipline in the locker room last year. We had some of the most penalties in the entire nation that killed every game week in, week out. Some of the players, I feel, gave up on him. Him and the Marvin Lewis experiment seems like it's possibly on its way out very soon. The tide is starting to turn on them after some okay to good years. So I don't know how this season's going to go. It's going to certainly be interesting. If we get to bowl eligibility, I'll be happy, and that's not very good to say. We're currently, I think, like on Bet Vegas, like the fourth favourite to win the Pac-12 at 17-2, which is fucking crazy. You might as well take a lighter to £20. We are not beating Oregon, Utah, or USC, so just don't do it.
So I think the overriding feeling then is, you like the quarterback, but the situation in general is a bit dire.
I just want to retain the Territorial Cup because today marks 2,000 days since Arizona have beaten University of Arizona State. Like I say, we have been utter domination for years now. But I feel like the tide could turn this year. I'm kind of worried this year.
Yeah, definitely. Like you say, with so much insecurity around, funny things can happen. And if we learnt one thing in college football last year, anybody can beat anybody on their day. There were that many shocks, so we'll see what happens there with that. But Emory Jones is not the only quarterback who's been on the move. One that happened very recently, and one I'm actually very intrigued by this one. So former Clemson backup Tyson Fomachan, he has now moved away from Clemson despite DJ Uangalele having a horrible year last year. He's still decided to go in the portal and go on the move, and he's landed at Georgia Tech. Now for me, this is a very intriguing quarterback situation there, because I know, Ryan, you look a lot at the hot seats more in college football than I do at the minute, but even I know that Georgia Tech is one of the hottest seats in college football going into this season. I don't think they've won more than 3 games in a year for the last 3 years. It's not going well there at all. And now you've got this quarterback room where you've got the incumbent Jeff Sims, who's been a model of inconsistency. He's shown that he can be really good, but he's also shown he can be really bad in equal measure. And then I believe they've also brought in Zach Gibson, who is the transfer quarterback from Akron, who finished as starter there last year. I think he threw 10 touchdowns, no interceptions, had a good end to the year. And now you include Fomachan into the mix there, who he's not played much at Clemson, but you know, he was a 4-star rated dual threat quarterback when he came out in 2019. Not had much of an opportunity there, and you know, this is going to be an interesting battle to see who wins this one. But if Fomachan is able to land there, win that starting job, and win them some games, you know, his stock could see a very quick rise, very quickly.
Unfortunately for him, he was forced out of Clemson because Cade Klubnik is now there, the 5-star freshman. Like I say, I think DJ Ungalele is in lots of trouble. I expect him to lose his job at some point this year to Cade. Georgia Tech are a funny one because they decided 18 months ago to leave triple option. They said, we're going to go to a pro-style offense and stop playing the triple option because it sure as shit doesn't work against the best teams. Because they lost Jahmyr Gibbs, their star running back, who then has gone on to play at Alabama this year. He is going to absolutely tear the country up. He was phenomenal, I'd say. So they've got this dual threat kind of guy, but he just can't trust him to throw the ball. I think these 2 quarterbacks coming in offer real good versatility to a team that is having to learn to throw the ball because they've been a run on every down and catch you out. They've played the same kind of football as Navy and Air Force and Army, and there's a reason it doesn't work against the best teams. So they're now going that pro-style offense where they're going to spread out the receivers, and they're learning to pass, and that is a very difficult transition. So it's going to take time. Yeah, I agree. The hot seat is there because they have struggled in the last few years and they have lost their talent. But this is a good place for him. There's no pressure on him. Like I say, even if he doesn't have a down year, they'll say that's fine. He's still got like at least 3 years of eligibility. He's only had like 1.5 years in college. So this is a good landing spot for him. And he could turn out to prove that he's a better quarterback than DJU. Maybe he was just not in the right scenario, or he just shouldn't have been on the bench. So I think he'll benefit massively from leaving Clemson.
Yeah, and like you mentioned there, Jahmyr Gibbs is gone, so the running back room is nowhere near as potent as it is, and Fomachan is a dual threat guy. You see him on tape, he's very good at extending plays with his legs and that, so maybe that's going to work in his favour going into that quarterback battle. But I'm interested to see how the guy from Akron does as well, because he finished the season very strong, so one of the more intriguing quarterback battles to watch out there at Georgia Tech. And that's not it, there's been a few more who've also transferred. So Jerry Bohannon, who used to play quarterback at Baylor, I believe for some reason we were talking about him on the last pod, I can't remember why, but he had been supplanted in that team, and he's moved. He's gone to the University of South Florida, I believe. He's gone to play there, so I think that's kind of like jumping out of the frying pan into a non-existent fire. You know, I don't think there's going to be a lot going on there for him. I mean, USF, not the greatest in the world at the minute, and yeah, Ryan's just said it there, horrible. And you know, Baylor are an upcoming team. You know, they had a great year last year, but he lost his job. He's now at USF. It feels like the situation's not retrievable for him going down to USF.
No, they are. If any USF fans are watching, I'm sorry, I'm not being harsh, but your football team is rotten. Like they've got some great units, they've got some horrible, ugly ass units, but the football is just not good. If you look at their record for the last couple of years, it's bad. Without even looking, I know they have not won that many games over the years, and they do not have a brand of football, and they have struggled at all positions. I think the last notable player to go to the USFL, the XFL was, I think it was Quinton Flowers. They had a dual threat QB that did okay, but I thought when he saw him in the pot, like Arizona State, get on the phone, I would have taken Jerry Bohannon straight away because he declared for the portal before Emory Jones was picked up. This is a guy that you've got to feel really sorry for the guy that he wasn't. Well, I don't know actually. He lost the job. Like they announced that the guy that came in and won the Big 12 championship because he wasn't there, who dominated Oklahoma State, has now got the job. But he played, I think, every other game in the season. So I don't know what's gone wrong. I don't know if he's lost confidence or something's happened in off season, but he was not named the start and he's decided that he will not be a backup there. So he is going to very quickly regret that decision. That is not a place where he can show off his talents whatsoever. Like I say, he's not surrounded by talent. He's going to do really hard to shine on a team that is pretty poor. Just because he's going to be a starting QB there, it does not mean that he's in the best place at all. But I don't think he also could have stayed. Like I say, sometimes it's better to play bad football and not play at all.
Yeah,
I suppose. But I think there were better options right from there. Even Arizona State would have been a better option because at least there's a bit more talent there and they'd have a chance at winning some games. I would be very intrigued how USF do next year. If they win more than 4 or 5 games, I'll be amazed because they've struggled to do that recently.
Yeah, agreed. It's but like you say, football is football. Playing football gets you more notice than sitting on a bench. So no matter where you're at, if he individually does well, then could resurrect something. But you would figure that that is a bad move there for him. My man Lions Rumble 81 is in the building on YouTube. He says, "Evening gents, the grind don't stop. Props for roaring in the UK. Thank you, sir, for your support as well. Absolutely loved you to bits. Thank you for coming on the pod." He also says, "Nice gear, Ryan." So he's complimenting the shirt there. Yeah, there we go. Representing.
Go telling you.
Yeah.
Go get one. Lions Nation Unite. The merch is all out. Herm will appreciate it. Like I say, it's a range that's dropping, so go get yourself some nice merch. They've got some nice T-shirts, Kings, Crowns, a lot. It looks good. Trendy streetwear.
There you go. You know where to find them if you want to get one of those as well, and it'll arrive to you guys over there a lot quicker than it will to us over here in the UK as well. Takes a little bit of time for gear to ship over here. And then in Twitch, our very own leader of the clan, Matt Maticus, our own Matthew Turner, is in there. He says, "What up?" Using some of his bits, thank you very much for that. He says, "Roar of the Lions for life," damn right, and then he's using some Brad Holmes emojis. Thank you to you, sir, for joining in. Appreciate it. Only just saw you last night, so hope you're getting on all right. Right, where were we? So we were doing transfer portal stuff. So yeah, leads on to the final quarterback I wanted to mention during this, and this probably the most intriguing of them all, JT Daniels. Obviously, last year started off well, but he got injured, as he so frequently has during his career, lost his job, went on to watch Georgia win the Natty without him. He transferred out, and he has ended up with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Now, I know they were having a very, very sort of big competition between their 3 young guys for the starting job in their spring camp. I think they've decided that, they're good, but there's no standout guy there. They wanted to bring in a vet instead, and JT's managed to land. I don't know what to say. I think of West Virginia as being a decent side where he might be able to flourish, but they flatter to deceive sometimes as well. So I personally like this move for him. If he can, one, stay healthy, because that's the big issue. He only played 5 games at Georgia. He was 5-0 as the starter there and did really well, but availability is the key for him. But if he gets this West Virginia offense humming, this could potentially be a big redemption story for him.
Yeah. I've not always been the nicest about JT Daniels, and that's been harsh of me. Like, the guy has been supremely unlucky. Like I say, wherever he's been, he has barely been able to see the field. Like I say, 100% record in all of his starts. He's got big boots to fill because West Virginia for the last 2 or 3 years has had Jarrett Doege, and he's not been bad. So they've got high expectations of him. So they needed to bring in someone. It was one of those, like, they needed a veteran quarterback, and he needed somewhere that he can just play. He needs somewhere where he could walk into the starting job. Very much like Spencer Rattler, he needed a home where he could resurrect his draft stock. JT Daniels is the same thing. The only thing on his mind right now is, I've got to put on displays. Whether they win or lose is irrelevant to him. As long as he plays well and he can resurrect some draft stock after injuries, he will be happy. even if they don't win many games, and it's not because of him, I don't think he'll be that bothered. But like I say, West Virginia, not a bad side, playing a reasonably good conference. Like I say, so he's going to have some tough battles, like I say, Texas, or TCU, like I say, Texas Tech, likes of them. So there's some legit competition there. I feel like this could be a marriage made in heaven. Like I say, I feel like they both needed each other.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. I was rooting for him last year. I was gutting when he got injured, and I'm going to root for him again. So, like I say, hopefully the injury concerns can be put in the past. He can get this job because, like I said, they've got 3 guys they're very high on there. So if he picks up a knock or an niggle, he misses a game or 2, he could potentially lose that job for good. So he's going to need everything to go right for him there. But hopefully it does, and hopefully West Virginia are able to have a good season on the back of it. And I mean, that's it for the quarterbacks. But just before I move on to the last guy, I just want to say this transfer portal has been crazy for quarterbacks, is it not? I can't think of a time when so many new starting quarterbacks are going to be at other teams. You look at most teams, and they have a new guy this year, and so many of them have come through the portal. It's been a crazy portal season, really, hasn't it?
I don't think crazy is the word. Like I said, this has been the worst portal since the thing. No man, that's just Hank barking in the background if you can hear him. He's seen a dog in the window. Yeah, there's still hundreds of players in the portal, and they've got no teams to go to. A lot of them will have to revert back to where they've come from, take their name out, and if they've been replaced, they may lose a year of eligibility. They may just not be able to play this year. It's been, I think, the record for FBS and FCS. At one point, you had like 2,000-3,000 players in looking for new homes. It's got to stop. The transfer portal has got to, the rules of eligibility of something have got to come back. It's impossible to plan for teams. It's impossible to hire a coach when you don't know who's going to be there. You can take the job and the next minute all your players leave. Or like say you don't like the hire and the players revolt and they all just enter the portal. Like say, like, look at the ASU, we've just lost 15 star players. That's not including players to the draft. And some of them have gone to rivals as well. And some of them really hurt because some of them came absolutely out of the blue. Look at Chip Traynham, our star freshman running back that was going to be the lead back this year. He decided to go to linebacker to Ohio State. He didn't even want to play running back because he didn't think he'd make it there. So he reverted to a position he hadn't played since high school. He'd rather do that than take his chances as the lead back. And that decision absolutely been used there. But it felt like it was the right time. So at some point, if you're an undergraduate, the rule has to come back in where you sit unless you apply for a waiver for immediate eligibility. Too many freshmen going to a team and then entering the portal, and it's got to stop because it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and mixed in with certain other issues that we're going to talk about in a minute, it's just encouraging a crazy atmosphere going around at the minute in terms of, you know, teams not being able to settle the rosters, not being able to get on with things because there's just too much uncertainty about the players and the player demands and the player needs, etc. So, yeah, an interesting time, let's say. Just finishing off the transfer portal, the other one I wanted to mention, Nebraska, they lost a lot of their good defense to the draft this year, and they've needed to try and restock, and they did get one very good guy out of the portal very recently. They took TCU defensive end O'Shawn Mattis. He's done quite well there. He had a really great 2020. He had a pretty decent year last year as well, but you know, TCU have lost some guys in the portal this year. Another team who have suffered, and you know, Nebraska feels like a really good place for him to drop. You feel like he's going to flourish there the way their defense plays.
Yeah, TCU, unfortunately, Gary Patterson stepping down after, 23 years in charge? It did not surprise me that players have started leaving. Like I said, I've seen O'Shea Mattis play a lot. Really good off the edge. He can be a menace to quarterbacks. Nebraska have not only got him, they've got Casey Thompson. They've got a 4-star quarterback from Texas who is a big upgrade. Like, Nebraska have struggled for the last few years. They may not immediately become irrelevant in the division, but it's a good start because Scott Frost is on one of the hottest seats in football. So some big time pickups. And it's good for me because I'm going to watch them because they're coming to Dublin as well.
Exactly. You'll get to see him up close and personal, and as bad as the Nebraska offense can be, their defense can also pull off some pretty stunning plays as well. So hopefully you'll get to see them at their full potential there by the time they come and visit. Who is it they're playing? Northwest? Is it Northwestern? I think it's Northwestern, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. On paper, not maybe the greatest fixture in the world to go and watch, but I mean, both teams have got a little better. I've heard Northwestern have a new Rashawn Slater at their left tackle position, so garnering a lot of buzz for the draft coming up next year. So potentially you could hit a sleeper game maybe, but we'll see with that one. So yeah, Portal still busy as ever. A few big moves in there, and if there's any more, we will let you know as we go on. But we're going to move on because there's a few other issues pertaining to the college game at the minute that we want to get through, and the big one of these is NILs. This is a very fun scene at the minute. Yeah, Ryan is sighing. Me and Ryan had a discussion about this, I think when the Supreme Court verdict happened last year against the NCAA about players campaigning that, and we both had differing opinions on this about what was going to happen, and I'm fair to say, hands up, I got this one wrong, and Ryan got this one smack bang on. But anyhow, I'm just going to go through it. This is a very complicated situation, a lot of moving, rolling parts in this game, but I'm just going to try and simplify it down as much as I can to bring you up to speed on this. So the NIL thing, so this is to do with the names, images and likeness of college football players. So before last year, the issue of paying college football players is one that had been rumbling on for years and years and years. Up to last year, players, they didn't get paid to play. They didn't get like a salary or anything to play the game. But, as I mentioned, there was a court case last year, went all the way up to the Supreme Court that the NCAA were part of, and they lost this court case they were in. It was relating to their rules on education-related compensation. The rules were they were ruled unfair, and they violated apparently federal antitrust laws. So basically, making players play for free and not giving them any access to money was wrong in the words of the Supreme Court. So from this, the whole NIL scheme was born. So what it was, it allowed college athletes, football players and basketball players, because apparently it's an even bigger problem there, it affords them the opportunity to take on sponsorships from individuals and companies who pay for the right to use the player's name, their images and the likeness. This allows the players to earn a wage for playing college football. At least that was the idea of this scheme. It was simply to be able to get players to be able to have sponsorships, to be able to make some money, to be able to make it a bit fairer for them, grinding through college, putting their bodies on the line. They can make a bit of money to do it. However, as I said, that was the idea. Recently, star wide receiver from the Pittsburgh, Jordan Addison, went into the transfer portal, and just before it happened and just after, there were murmurs that this new system, this NIL system, was getting taken advantage of. It was not been used in the way that it was indicated, but because the NCAA have put no guidelines in place of this, there wasn't a lot that could be done about it. So it was said that boosters from USC had tapped him up, basically. So they went up to Addison himself, they offered him a name, image and likeness deal, which was said to be worth potentially $3 million, and all he had to do was put himself in the transfer portal and then transfer to USC, and the money was his. And the rumours exacerbated this because he went to California, he was spotted in California, so the odds that he was actually tapped up are quite, they're quite prominent. Can't be proven, but it's telling, because he's in the portal now. He's down to 3 teams where he wants to go. He wants to go to USC, Texas, and Alabama. Now the Longhorns are throwing NIL money around like there's no tomorrow, and Alabama also have some pretty rich boosters who can offer him a lot of money to go there, and these are the 3 potential destinations for his next stop, which don't rule out the possibility that he has been tapped up. Now if this was to happen, then what essentially it means is teams can almost put in transfer offers for players like they do over here in soccer. You can, tell a prospect, I'll pay you so much money, you can come and play for us, you get all this money. The only difference here is that a player's team don't get no of this money. There's no way of stopping these deals because they can't prevent players going into the transfer portal and leaving. So what this essentially means is teams with the richest boosters, the biggest paychecks, will now get their own sort of a free agency period where they can go out and sign any player they want for the right price. Now, sort of the big crux of this issue is these college boosters. So boosters, these are third-party, like really wealthy individuals who contribute to a particular college, their alma mater, whatever. They are allowed to offer incentives to players on their team after the player has committed to the side. By regulation, these guys are banned from getting involved in negotiations to recruit players. It just can't happen. And before this Supreme Court ruling, all that they would do is they would like pay for an athlete's tuition, they would maybe pay some of the little bills, whatever. It was nothing that all colleges really weren't able to offer, so there was no real advantage there of the booster system, no real way to entice people in instead of anyone else, because you can all pay them the same thing. However, now that players are allowed to make money through their image rights, this complicates the process. These boosters are now able to dive into their checkbooks to pay for these rights for players. But, by law, how it is at the minute, by the regulations, they should not be able to disclose any information about the deals that players can, get at these clubs until they have signed. They're not allowed to talk to players beforehand. So essentially, if a player wants to put in a transfer request and go to another team, he has to run the risk that he might lose out on image rights money, He doesn't know if his current team can pay him as much as his new team. That's how this is meant to be. But, like everything, these systems have been made to be navigated. And like I said, there's no safeguards been put into place to this. And what it appears is happening is boosters are now putting together contract offers. They're now talking to the players very, very on the sly. It's very hard to prove that this happens. But you can say to a player, look, I'll pay you $2 million if you come here. And this is a scheme which is getting called pay-to-play. It's completely at odds with what NIL was meant to be about. But you can't really prove it. And it's next to impossible because it could be something as simple as a phone call, a letter, something that can't be traced there. And now the NCAA are in a bind because, as far as this problem goes, they lost a court appeal last year about all this. This is their scheme. And if they want to try and, reverse it, they're going to be met by a lot of angry lawyers from very rich people who are going to argue that they're going to, go back to the age of athletes not getting paid. This is a very messy issue. I know it's a big one. I hope I've explained it as simply as I can, even though it's not very simple. But I mean, Ryan, you predicted this might happen. I said that this is a system where, smaller schools might be able to entice some of these guys who are on these big stacked teams like Alabama and that who are not getting playing time. It might be able to attract them down to them and be able to level the playing field out a bit. You said no, teams are going to start offering money for the best players here and they're going to start abusing the system. You were right. I mean, this is a mess, isn't it?
Yeah, they're breaking the law. Like I said, these are going to turn out to be federal laws. Like I say, it is extortion. Xavier Worthy, the star wide receiver at Texas, has come out and said that anonymously, in the last month or two, he has been offered by two companies for sponsorship, $600,000 and $300,000 each, to put his name into the transfer portal and go to two different schools. That, like I said, that is tapping up. It's illegal, like I say, so that could get a federal lawsuit, and it's exactly what the NIL was meant to stop. Players now aren't student athletes. They're now semi-pro footballers, like I say. They're now being paid for their likeness. That's why the NCAA football games that EA created used to stop, because they were creating players, just using them in games, but the players weren't getting none of the money. So if they do create a new game, they have to work out how they're going to pay all the players for the likeness, which is going to make it very difficult to create the new game that is expected in 2 years. This is a total minefield. I'm pretty sure the NCAA have spoken to lawyers about in a year or two, they're going to try create a cap on earnings. So they're going to try rein in the threshold, because now the genie's let out of the bottle. You cannot pour it back in, because you will just get a union will form and the players will strike. and they just won't play, and there'll be no college football. So it's pretty much impossible to go back for it now. But it's not too late to set rules and ground rules. I agree that when Addison does go to USC, because it looks like it was, someone's seen an Instagram photo of his Instagram story, and they've managed to match the garden to Lincoln Riley's brand new mansion that he's just bought, which is pretty good work. I'll give him that. He's been to his house, he's had dinner. He's now in the portal, which is fine, but there's been lots of WhatsApps and texts before he left Pitt, and Pitt were very unhappy. They put out a tweet when he left. I think it said #we not me, because they felt he was leaving under bad circumstances, that he'd been tapped up. So they're very unhappy. This won't be the last we've heard of players tapping up. I've been having a look at some of the notable NIA deals that have taken so far. So Bijan Robinson. Now, the figures aren't disclosed, but pretty swanky. The running back from Texas has got a deal with Lamborghini Austin, the famous supercar brand. Now, I don't know what he's got. It's not been disclaimed, but a Michigan basketballer has got the same deal. That's rumoured to be worth between $600,000 to $800,000, and a car that he's allowed to drive to and from practice and outside of school. So anyone knows Bijan Robinson, if you can let me know what model Lamborghini he's driving to practice. I'm pretty sure he's now got a nice car and a bit of cash as well. You've got DJ Ungalele. He now is a spokesperson for Bojangles, a fast food restaurant. He will have adverts, he tweets, he sponsors, he gets seen playing with the food there. That's believed to be worth somewhere in the 5 figures. Caleb Williams, the USC star, he's reported to have a deal that's up to $2 million of all his sponsors combined. The biggest is with Fanatics, who I know do signed memorabilia. They do authentication, sign helmets, cards, they're getting into the sports card industry. They are one of the giants of college sport. So he's a very, very wealthy young man now. Shadur Sanders, the son of Deion Sanders, is the first HBCU player to be signed with Gatorade. He's also got Beats by Dr. Dre and Trail, which is the sportswear brand that Tom Brady owns. So he's got collectively 3 NI deals together as one of the prominent HBCU players at Jackson State. I dread to think how much he's earning between those 3 giant companies. And one scary thing, The Athletic has reported that an unnamed class of 2023 player has signed an NIL deal that is worth minimum $2 million and maximum $8 million. That is the largest deal in existence so far. Now, if I had to guess, please no one quote me on this, I would guess it could be Arch Manning or it could be Eli Holston, the 4-star quarterback that's trending to Bama. Those 2 are very prominent names in the 2023, but there's also some receivers. But someone out there is very rich, and everyone knows that Arch Manning is the hottest commodity the next year. We're waiting for his commitment, and everyone will want him. So I'm sure we'll find out who it is, but that is the largest deal, and it's disgusting. $8 million possibly, like I say, and all they have to do is be in a commercial. All they always have to do is take a photo of a game when Beats by Dr. Dre, or just do an advert and do a tweet. I agree that college players, I get it, right, their scholarships, like I say, they pay for their education, but they've still got to pay for their own accommodation. If they don't live anywhere near campus and they need to drive, if you work in just a McDonald's and then you've got to study as well and then play at the highest level, that's very difficult. So I'm happy with sponsorships players getting, but when it starts getting into, well, I don't want to play in the state of Arkansas because there's no company there that can give me the money that a team in the state of Texas can, that is where I draw the line. And the biggest one for me is Quinn Ewers. He's a Texas kid. He was from South Lake High School, the prominent star high school in Texas football. He was reportedly offered like $1.5 million NIL to go to Ohio State, but his heart was in Texas. So what did he do? He committed there. He took the money and he enrolled, left high school early. And then what did he do? He entered the transfer portal within half a year at Ohio State. And then where did he go? Shock and awe, Texas Longhorns, the school where he always wanted to play. He went to Ohio State for the money because he was offered it. He was legally happy to take it. You've got to have repercussions where a player goes for an NIA deal, take the money. You can't just leave the school. Like you've got to pay it back. You've got to pay back a proportion, because otherwise you'll get these freshmen, these sophomore kids transferring out of their school very quickly after they're running away like the Hamburglar with a lot of sacks of money. So I felt that was a very unethical deal. I'm sure he's a great kid. Bravo, he played the system perfectly. He got a big fat payday, and he is just going to win the Texas job. He's a Texas kid, and he wants to be a Longhorn. So that is where it's going to start to get the blurred lines.
Yeah, definitely. So my man Rumbles in the YouTube chat, he's put it very succinctly. He's put, these colleges have become pimps. At least the students are finally getting paid, and then he's put, and they get tax break for such. I mean, yeah, let's not for 1 second say that we're against, the kids, like you've just said there, the college athletes. Go make your money. You deserve it. After years and years and years of getting used and not getting paid a cent, and you must think how many players have had their careers prematurely ended by injury, not even made it to the NFL. All those injuries, all those players who've not gone through, who've not got to the NFL because of the life-changing injuries they've had, etc. They never get paid for this. Yeah, they get their education and bits like that, but at the end of the day, it's a big risk they're taking. They're putting their bodies on the line every week, and I think as players,
Kenzie Milton.
Yeah.
Look at Kenzie Milton. He almost lost his leg, and he has not seen his penny, because, like I say, he has gone and been through college, pretty much just when I've started, and that injury ruined his life. Like I say, he will probably never play pro football. He'll be very lucky if he does. It was great to see him last year, like I say. And now he transferred. But yeah, he has got nothing in the way of represented. These college kids get hurt and they get tossed on the junk pile, like I say. And if they're off the football team and they can't play, I don't know what happens to their scholarship. Like I say, they must just get through school, but then what they do, they're left high and dry. So there's got to be something to protect them. I hope NIL deals have clauses where if a season-ending injury, or if they lost a leg or an arm for injury, that they still get some sort of money. I hope they don't just cut ties with them and leave them for the next hot thing, because there's got to be protection both ways, because I worry that kids are going to get exploited out of this, and they're going to end up getting in hot water legally if they don't know what they're signing with the contracts.
Oh, of course, and and this sometimes is not all the kids' stuff. They're going to have advisors who are going to go, right, make this move, go do this, screw loyalty, you go there, make that money, go back, come make this money. They're very impressionable. It's the first taste of really big money, and like you said, this is worth millions now. I mean, the unconfirmed report, you said $8 million for an NIL contract. That's more than the vast majority of NFL players make in a season at the highest level, and this is per year. This isn't this is per year. This is not like over the course of your college career you get $2 million. This is per year. If you're earning $8 million at the college level, you're just going to want to stay there for longer, but it's going to create a big gap here. And I just want to say hello to some guys who've joined in. So Justin Gassaway's in. He said, I've just joined, so you may have already discussed this, but do you think NIL deals will ruin college sports and the chances of smaller schools to ever have a shot of winning anything significant? Well, that's exactly what we're on about at the minute. When this first came up last year, when the Supreme Court case was lost, we had two very different opinions here. I thought this would help small schools, as I say. The ability to appeal to some of these guys on stacked rosters at the top level who are not getting game time. Say, well, look, you can make a drop down, but you'll be paid for it. You come down here, play football, make some money, maybe resurrect your draft stock, etc., etc. I think it'll help the small schools. Ryan straight away said no, they're going to take advantage of this, and there's going to be problems down the line, and Ryan has been proven exactly right. This isn't the kids' fault, this is the boosters getting involved, and because there's no accountability there on their part, the fact they can go and tap up and you cannot prove that they've tapped them up. It's simple as just like a phone call going, $3 million to come to Pitt and play. Put the phone down, that is it. You've put the thought in the guy's head now, that he can transfer out, go there, make the money. So hard to prove, and as you said, Bri, hopefully, they are able to do something about it that finds a sweet spot. So, like you say, the schools are protected, they don't have to pay out ridiculous amounts, but the kids still get a good amount of money, for their images and the likeness, to get paid what they're worth, basically. Maybe you can have, escalators for, how many stars you are, so the gravitas of the player, etc. Something like that. I'm sure there's a system that can be worked out that works for the players and the colleges, but for right now, the colleges are going to abuse this like crazy. I mean, if Jordan Addison goes to USC, I mean, Pittsburgh found him and have developed him and turned him into the player he is, and they're going to get nothing from this. Absolutely nothing. He's just gone now. So it's not even like the colleges who are finding and developing these guys to get reimbursed. I mean, if you are going to start something like this, you have to start paying them as well as the players. So it's very messy. It's no end in sight here. There's going to be legal wranglings for a long, long time, and quite frankly, I have no idea where this is going to go. So again, this is something we're going to keep an eye on. But Ryan gave you the figures there. There are some truly shocking figures, amounts of money been offered for some of these guys now, and it's just going to create chaos in the portal going forward. Especially the portal's crazy as it is. We're throwing the NIL stuff in there as well. That's why thousands upon thousands of players have gone in and chanced it. So yeah, a messy situation all round. Det Fan Man's in the chat as well. He goes, "Hey fellas, I'm late as well. Curveball. What are the chances of General Booty playing his way into a Lions contract? A man can dream, I guess. What a name." Yes, that is the news that... what's his full name, Ryan? You had his full name the other day.
I'm pretty sure he's the third generation of General Axel Booty. His uncle was an NFL quarterback, a Major League pitcher, and an LSU quarterback. I think his name was Josh or Jason. Yeah, General Axel Booty, I think the third, a JUCO prospect. I don't know much about him. I don't know if he'll ever play at Oklahoma, if he's going to be the one that takes the job after Dylan Gabriel. But like I say, he's very prominent, but I suppose we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah, and there you go, Det Fan Man. Axel is a name that is synonymous with Detroit. Obviously, you have to look no further than Axel Foley, Beverly Hills Cop. Then we could have Axel Booty in as well to further the name ever more for that. But yeah, we can dream. There are some great names. There's a General, there's a Major, there's a running back called Major. So I can't remember his second name, but a few ranks of the military knocking around in there now. Gino's in the chat. Thank you for joining us this evening. I've missed Twitch. Danger is in the chat on Twitch as well. Oh god, hang on. I've missed a lot of chat here. Sorry. Oh, Ash is in. Big up the lads. 100. He goes, quickly checking in from work. Wish I was here to properly annoy you guys. Oh damn it, he's at work. I've already made one Jordan Travis joke today. I was hoping he was listening, and I've got some more. Got some more Jordan Travis jokes as well, so make sure you listen to this afterwards. So yeah, Danger is in the chat. This is actually a first time chat. He says, "Why can't life just be easy?" Yeah, if only there. He's having a chat with Matt in there as well. But thank you for joining us. Appreciate it there. Right, so we've just talked about the NILs. Let's move it on a little bit. Justin's just said in the chat, off question as well. Do you think Travis Hunter has started a trend of better rated players going to HBCU or FBS schools? That's a very good question there. And I'm sad that Ash isn't around to witness us trash FSU a bit more. But I don't know, obviously, what Justin's mentioning there, the shock move that Travis Hunter, the number one prospect in the entire country coming into this year's recruiting class, meant to be going to Florida State. He got flipped by Deion Sanders and Jackson State. Was that over money? Was money involved with that? I guess they have given him an NIL deal there as well, but I think it was mainly the pull of Deion Sanders, I think, that did it, wasn't it? Do you reckon there is a new era coming through for HBCU schools now? Because, 4 players got drafted this year, which is great. There was none the years before. They are, Deion Sanders especially is bringing in a lot of talent from the FBS. Is the scene starting to change? Will we witness this on more occasions now? No. He only went there because of Deion Sanders. Do you think it's the pull of the coach? He's a wide... Do you know what? What's funny is he's now playing wide receiver. I've seen him torching plays. It's corner game. He was a cornerback, and he said, I want to be there because Deion Sanders is one of the greatest returners and DBs of all time. He's now playing receiver. If they had a normal coach at Jackson State, there's not a chance he gets flipped. And for me, HBCU, unless he's going to have Deion Sanders at every coach, I don't think there's any trend in it. They won't get any of his FBS players. I think Jackson State will probably be one of the forefronters, but
You will see us. I think you'll see the trend of a lot more high-profile names getting into coaching. Like I say, if someone like Devin Hester, if he becomes a college head coach, I know for a fact players that are going to jump to be coached by him. Like you'll see that trend there. That, like I say, it was the best year for like 10 years before drafted. I think that was just because of 4 standout players, but I don't think this probably changes much recruitment-wise. But it's good to see a lot more guys getting into coaching. Like say, God, what's his name? Quinn, Glover Quinn.
Yeah, Glover Quinn.
I know he cares how his kids play baseball. He cares about football, high school. Like say, when they get older, would he coach? Do you coach Div 2, Div 3? He'd be the kind of guy that could have pull as well on some of these kind of kids. Any defensive back, if he was the highest, like a DC or a head coach, sure as shit, I'd go play for him.
Yeah,
so that is what the trend will be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they will gravitate towards Sanders a lot more. And it's interesting you mentioned the position change there with him, because obviously, we have an example ourselves now on the Detroit Lions. We've just brought in James Houston from Jackson State, and you watch his interviews, and obviously he spent a few years in Florida first trying to break into their linebacking core. He dropped down to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders, and he says very quickly, Deion Sanders came up to him and said, well, look, I'm looking at the way you play, your pass rushing, your bits like that, and he said he reminded him sort of a Micah Parsons-esque player, a guy who, he can play linebacker, but he's dangerous off the edge, and you've got sort of that hybrid outside linebacker edge position that he can play, and he put him there, and in the 1 year he was at Jackson State, he went absolutely insane on his production, and he said up until this point no one else had noticed it or seen it or even thought to try it. So if you've got a guy there in Deion Sanders who knows the game inside out, who loves coaching young players up, who can see all these things that others can't, it's the allure of him, I think, that is doing it. But I think it's great that it's been done in the HBCU scene. There are so many talented players. There were this year. A lot have made rosters. They've at least made 90-mans for now. And I think you'll see a lot in the league going forward. So, yeah, it's interesting. But, yeah, I think we're both agreed. It's more going to be to Jackson State and to the coaches down there at this moment in time. Right, so we'll move it on to our next moment.
It'll be more interesting to see if Travis Hunt. It'll be more interesting to see if Travis Hunter stays at Jackson State, because now the money's there and people know he's a good name. Can they keep hold of him? Like I say, because someone is good. If he has a fantastic year at wide receiver and plays defensive back and he tears it up, you just know someone in a year is going to ring him up and say, they're going to WhatsApp him and say, do you want $250,000? Do you want to be the spokesperson of KFC and McDonald's? Come to TCU, come to Texas, transfer out of state. He's the perfect kid to tap up, I'd say, because he's probably come from a lesser background, probably come from a home where, like you say, he's had lots of siblings. I don't know his background, but he's probably never had a load of money. So to offer him a load of money, it'd be hard for him to turn down. So he's the kind of player that will get tapped up. So let's see if Deion Jackson can keep him there and motivated.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's like I say, a lot of the players they get down at Jackson State are players at the back end of their college careers, like say trying to resurrect the draft stock for 1 year before they go, a la James Houston. This is different. They're now picking up, like as you say, a player at the beginning of his college career, so it will be interesting. If he has a really good year next year, I'm with you. I agree to see a lot of teams who are going to be in there for him. Right, so we're going to move it on now. So we've talked about the NILs a bit, transfer portal. Next, this was a question that was asked by Ash of us, and it sort of merges into a topic I wanted to talk about, and this is about a proposed removal of divisions in conferences. He's asked us for our thoughts on that. So a memo came out, I think it was this week at some point, or it's been in the last week or so, and all it simply says is the NCAA is working to review a rule change that would allow conferences to have the ability to determine how a conference championship game can be arranged, allowing conferences to abandon the long-standing NCAA policy that only division champions may compete in any sanctioned conference championship game. So basically, there's a lot of talk in there, but what it means right now, if you are an FBS conference, to hold a championship game, you have to have divisions within your league. So a lot of the teams, they have East and West divisions in there, simply because there's too many teams in these leagues to be able to play each other once a season. So by going down into divisions, you can rotate the schedule of who plays one another, and you can still fit in the right number of in-conference and out-of-conference games to be able to make the schedule as the rules apply at the minute. The only exemptions to this currently are the Big 12 and the AAC. They both have less members than the other conferences, and therefore that means that they are able to play a round-robin schedule where they all play one another and still fit in the required number of out-of-conference games too. So that means their championship games are decided by the teams with the 2 best records in the conference, not the 2 division winners whose records could be vastly different. Now, the argument that's sort of come up for it, it's, with the way some of these conferences have been divided up, this has led to like a really lopsided power structure that's devaluing some of these championship games. So, we're going to look no further than the Big Ten as the example for this. So the Big Ten East champion has won every single championship game since 2014. I believe at least 4 of those are by big margins in double figures as well. That's including the Michigan Wolverines this year blowing out the Iowa Hawkeyes. That wasn't even a competition there. And it can be argued that the Iowa side, who won the Western Conference, were not even a top 5 team in the East. I had them below Penn State, who finished 4th in the West. So instead of getting the 2 best records in division, which would have been Michigan and Ohio State in a rematch, you got the 2 champions who put on a really bad affair. I mean, it was nearly a 50-point margin of victory in this, and is absolutely nothing on what an OSU-Michigan game have been. On the flip side, you compare the 2 non-division conferences, so the AAC and the Big 12. In the AAC, you got Pittsburgh versus Wake Forest. That first quarter of that game was the best of any of the championship games at all. There were 35 points put up. 2 high-powered offenses went hammer and tongs after one another. Pittsburgh did take over after that, but it was a supreme display of defensive playmaking in that game. That was the best that Wake Forest had been played against in regards to that year. It was a very good game to watch, even if Wake didn't put up any points in the last of ones. And then you've got the Big 12, which was contested between Baylor and Oklahoma State. That was a very low-scoring affair, but again, really high level of defense on display, 2 evenly matched teams. It was a very riveting encounter to watch compared to the Big Ten one, which was frankly just awful. So this new law change is basically going to allow conferences to be able to make up their own regulations when it comes to championship games. They don't have to use the conferences. They can do it any which way they want if they can find a system that works from them. And the immediate feedback that's come from this is nearly every division is considering nearly every conference is considering scrapping its divisional system. I think only the SEC at the minute is not too fussed about it, but their divisional system actually works pretty well for them, so don't change what ain't broke sort of thing. I mean, what are your thoughts on this one, Ryan? I mean, it was noticeable that some of the better championship games did come from the non-divisional ones this year. Do you think this is a good move overall to be able to raise competition, or do you like the division structure and the way it works at the minute?
Divisions are awful. They just don't work. Get rid of divisions in every single conference. You should not be having a championship game where one team is 7-5 and one team is 11-1. You should be having the championship game where one is 10-2 and one is 11-1, even if they're in the same division. The best 2 teams have to take part in the conference championship, or it's not really a championship, is it? Like I say, Iowa were crap. Their offense was awful. I thought even Wisconsin were better than them, and they finished like 3rd. Look at the Pac-12. Let's just say Arizona State go 8-4. Let's just say USC go 12-0. Should those 2 be playing a game in the championship? If Utah go 10-2, or if Oregon go 10-2, absolutely not. No, they shouldn't. Arizona State shouldn't be anywhere near that goddamn game. I think first thing you need to do is you've got to level them all out. You've got to have a good number of teams. And I know that means there's going to be more travelling, but it's time to shake up conferences. You can't be having conferences with 7 teams and having some with 12 in. you've got to at least get them where they're all at like 9-10 games. So if you've got 15 teams in a conference, that's fine. So let's say on every 2 years, let's say you play 7 of your own teams and you play 5 non-conference games and then you rotate. So every 2-3 years you play everyone in your own conference. That's fine because you've got the games. Let them decide their own schedules where they say every 2 years you've got to have played everyone in the conference because it's very doable. I think it'll work really well because you'll get right now you're getting to a point where there's teams that never play each other. There's teams like say in the Big Ten in the West and East that never play each other. I'll probably play each other like every 6 years. It shouldn't be like that. You should be playing all your own teams, everyone in a space of 2-3 years max, and then you play some non-conference games. So it's about time. This has been really outdated.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. I mean, as I say, you only have to watch the games that were on this season to show that, the difference in quality. I mean, you want to watch Pittsburgh versus Wake Forest. You don't want to watch Pitt versus, NC State, Florida State, someone who's finished, ridiculously far down, who've got like a 500 record, as was the case with the Big Ten East this year. You want to see the two best teams go at it. So, yeah, I'm all in favour of this as well. Hopefully they're able to. I know it's worked in the SEC because they keep Alabama and Georgia separate, but again, they're sort of powerhouses who run their respective divisions in there, so it would be nice to shake it up and see some of these teams play each other a bit more. So, yeah, I think this is a good step from them. I think the conferences just need to settle down a bit, though, because teams are flying here, there, and everywhere. I think the SEC expands in a few years. Oklahoma and the Longhorns are going over, if I remember rightly. There's a big... Yeah, the Longhorns are going to get their asses handed to them every single year in that conference, I think, depending on what happens. But, yeah, it's a good thing for the game. So hopefully they can just come up with something where they can all play each other at least once every 2 years, like you say. Do a good schedule, mix it up a little bit, and hopefully we'll get some better championship games come the end. And of course, these have implications for the playoffs as well. Michigan basically got a bye in that game to be able to make the playoff standings better. If they're playing Ohio State, that could rule them out of contention. There's a lot at stake in regards to this, so it's going to be an intriguing thing to see what happens. But I would expect them all to scrap it and come up with a different way, and I think the game will be better for it. This is awkward. Gino in the YouTube chat's just gone go Hawks after we've just ripped them for being in that championship game. Apologise about that one, Gino. But in our defence, we said a hell of a lot of nice stuff about your defence.
No, we don't.
Oh, we're not sorry. All right, that's fine.
Offense is awful.
Yeah,
Spencer Petras is a terrible quarterback.
He is, but we did say a lot of nice things about the defence during the season. A lot of nice things, so it kind of evens out a bit. One side's good, one side's bad. That is an honest opinion about it, so, yeah. So that's in terms of the conference and division stuff. It's going to be intriguing to see what happens with that. So, moving on, we're done there. Now, I'm going to come up to our final section of the evening. So, we've obviously just finished with the 2022 NFL draft, and I know people are draft fatigued and stuff like that. But there is another draft coming up. There is another college season coming up, and it is time that we need to turn our attention towards that. Like I say, this is the fun time of year where we get to see a lot of these new players emerge. Hang on, quickly before I go, I had a question from Justin Gassaway. He says, as an ND fan, do you think this could help non-conference teams get into playoffs easier? Also, they should be able to expand playoffs to 8 teams. Would scrapping divisions give more teams a chance to get in the playoffs, do you reckon? I guess it depends on the league.
That's a good question, because I didn't think about that. Scrapping that. I think it's time to get rid of independents. If you're making conferences get rid of divisions, you can't have independent schools anymore, because they'll just play each other. Like say, and no offense to some of them, but like say you've got ND and BYU, but then the rest of them are pretty awful. It's time that all the independents joined a conference. They may disagree, but I think they've got to get a home, because if you stay independent, it does hurt your chances of getting the playoffs. BYU are a really good team, and they belong in the Pac-12, because the Holy War with Utah, it's a big rivalry. Get your ass in the Pac-12 where you could compete. ND, really good side. haven't they just played in the ACC? They did, didn't they? Like I said, and they looked good. So join the conference. So I agree, this will help them. But I think first of all, two things need to happen. The best teams in the FCS that whip teams every year, get them out, get them in the FBS, find a home for them, integrate them, because I know some of them are very reluctant to step up. And then you need to merge the independents. Once you get schedules that have got enough teams in, and then you can work on getting the divisions. So there's definitely a path to it. Like I said, I think ND, they have got some elite level recruiting this year. They have picked up multiple 4-stars I've seen recently. Like I said, they're picking up some big names. So yeah, it could be a good year for them. Scrapping divisions could help Notre Dame get in the playoffs very soon.
Yeah, I agree. Justin goes, I wish Notre Dame could join the big... I would assume that is the Big Ten. Are they closer to the Big... Where is Notre Dame geographically? It's nearer the Big Ten, is it not? Or am I getting this mixed up?
I've got no idea where now. Is it
Who's the rivalry game? Who's the rival game? Oh God, we're meant to know this. I'm assuming it's Big Ten. I could be wrong. They could do well in the Big Ten if they to be honest, if they went into if they went into the Big 12, I have no idea what state Notre Dame are from. if they went into the Big 12, they'd rule that, or they'd be pretty high up in that. Yeah. I think in the Big 10 it would be very I'd like to see that, to be fair, a bit more. I'd love to see Texas, Notre Dame, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. That'd be a great conference. Sorry, Justin. Apologies for butchering the geographical location of Notre Dame, but obviously it doesn't stand out as a place right below Michigan. It's Big 10 then. Big 10 country. That could be fun, having Notre Dame in the Big 10.
I think it would be, yeah. I did not know that. I've learned something new today. I had no idea where Notre Dame was.
South Bend, Indiana, apparently. So, oh, right, yeah. I know exactly where now, yeah. That would be good. But yeah, hopefully it gives them a chance to do better, because it needs freshening up a bit. I know Cincinnati made it last year, but it would be nice to see more teams be able to have a shot at making it there. So yeah, thank you for that. We've had another first time chatting from the Sky OD on Twitch. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Where was I? So yeah, we've just gone through the 2022 NFL draft, and we're gonna start looking forward now. But don't worry, we're not gonna start boring you with mock drafts and stuff instantly, but I thought it'd be interesting to sort of introduce you to some of the players who we've got our eyes on for next season. It's never too early to put some names in heads, get some looks in some certain directions. So we're just going to go through. Well, I'm going to ask you this question because I've obviously done a bit of prep work on this already, but now that the 2022 NFL draft is done, this Lions team, as it stands, if it has a decent year next year and players start to develop and they start to show their promise, where are the positions of need for the 2023 NFL draft? The positions that you're looking at, that no matter how well we do or the uncertainty that's there, what would be your very early recommendations for positions in the 2023 NFL draft?
Quarterback and running back. We've addressed both the lines. We need the skill positions. I'm not convinced DeAndre Swift is the long-term future. If he struggles this year, my prediction is if he struggles this year, he's gone. If he has a bad year, he will not be a Lion in 2023. And Jared Goff, I think Jared Goff will have a good year. Can he have a great year? Where's the ceiling? I'm not sure, but I've listed some. And maybe cornerback. There is doubt about Armani and Jeff. They both could be gone next year.
I'm so glad that you said running back, because I thought of 4 positions that we might need for next year, and I put running back in as the 4th because I genuinely believe on offense, if everything goes right, we're pretty much set. But you say Jamal Williams will be out of contract, so who knows what happens there. DeAndre with another year on him, he's approaching contract status. We're going to have to start paying him money eventually. So it's an uncertain room. So for me, that is an area that we're going to need to take a look at. But you mentioned the first one there, quarterback. No matter what Jared Goff does this year, or unless outside of us having a deep playoff run, I think that his job is up for grabs next year, mainly because this will be the first year we are not financially tied to him. These last 2 years, or last year and this year, we are into him for a lot of money and a lot of dead cap, which kind of means that we have to roll with him. And I think that was the plan all along. 2 years, give him his opportunity. If he takes it, great. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But regardless, I think quarterback's going to be high on the agenda next year. So we'll just have a look at some of these guys next year. Like I said, we're not going to go in depth on all these guys now because there's loads of summer to come. There's loads of autumn to come before college football starts up again. But we just want to sort of introduce you to some of these guys in these classes. So we'll go through the quarterbacks. Just quickly before I do, Gino goes, don't apologise for the Iowa offence. It seems to be that way every other year. Brian Ferentz was a terrible offensive coordinator. No issues there. I think we all agree there. It seems to be every other year a good offence, a terrible defence, a good defence and a terrible offence. We can never put together a complete team. It is a shame because that defence last year was absolutely amazing. You know, the amount of turnovers that they had after such a short period of time was incredible. So, you know, we were very complimentary about it. I mean, they got lucky. Riley Moss has gone... Is it Riley Moss who's gone back there this year?
Yeah.
When he was
I love him.
Yeah, Riley Moss has gone back, which is a big boon for their secondary. And you know they're going to produce new guys in there. You just hope that offense can get it rolling a little bit. So, you know, they'll...
I've got it. I've got a Notre Dame player on this list.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
I've got two.
Yeah, spoiler for Ash, there's no Florida State guys on any of these. Sorry. Right, so yeah, quarterbacks, anyhow. Introduce you to this class. So, obviously, everybody knows about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young because that's all the chatter has been about since the draft. You know, tank for CJ Stroud, tank for Bryce Young. They're the two guys. Don't do it to yourselves. This time last year, Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell got exactly the same hype. And they're not at as big a schools, or maybe have the bigger weapons as they had there, but everyone was made to look very foolish very quickly for banking on those two straight at the start of the season. Don't do it now. CJ Stroud and Bryce Young are very good quarterbacks, but they've got to prove it over a second year that they can take the step and really become elite at the next level. But me and Ryan, we like this quarterback class beyond it. I know it's not got a lot of love so far, but there is a lot of potential in this next quarterback class. And the first guy I'll mention, and I'll hand it over to you, Ryan, because I know that you love him. And, you know, I quite like him as well, but you've seen him a bit more than I have. The third guy, and this guy is projected in some very early mocks to be a first-round pick, but Will Levis from Kentucky. You know, a guy I know you're very high on. I like my Kentucky players. I'm probably going to be very high on him eventually, but, you know, he's the guy to really watch out for at this point, isn't he, outside of those two?
He is, yes. I saw a CBS way too early mock, and he went to the Lions at number 7. So he is getting lots of first-round attention. I really like the kid. He's bigger than the other two. He's a lot bigger and stronger. He's 6'3" and 215 pounds, so he looks like the quarterback you want. Like I say, he's not the noodles that Young and Stroud are, who they're a bit scrawny between them. This guy, and he is the dual threat of the three. Like I say, his SEC rushing grade, it was like 83.5 by PFF. He is brilliant on the run. He tucks, he runs well, he's dynamic, he throws well around the run. Like I say, he's super athletic. Needs to work on the inconsistencies, the accuracy, and that's not always there. Did have a good year and a very good Kentucky offense. He's one of those, like, is he going to be able to get the arm perfect? Like I say, it's another one of those where he offers everything. He's dual threat. Like I say, people are really high on the kid, and this is the year. Like I say, if he has a good year, he will be a top 10 pick. Like I say, he feels safer than going on someone like, well, Malik Willis. Will Levis seems a little bit safer, like I say, because I think he's bigger, he's stronger, he's a bit more accurate as well. So he is I've circled him as my guy to watch. I've penciled him in that's where I want the Lions to be picking as well. I don't really want to be anywhere near Bryce Young or CJ Stroud because as it stands, they're going 1, 2, 3 in that position. So you've got to be pretty bad or trade up. And this year, a trade up is going to cost you loads. You could have traded up for a pittance this year. Next year, it's going to cost you maybe 2 firsts if you want one of those two.
You know, I guess hopefully from our point of view, the Vikings are picking first because we know we can fleece their GM for nothing. So maybe he might take a 3rd round pick for the number 1 spot. Who knows? But yeah, Will Levis, really the guy to look out for in this draft. But there is a lot of talent there below him. I'll quickly go, I'm starting the train for him right now. There are a few guys on it, but my personal favourite going into this year to keep an eye on is KJ Jefferson. He is the Arkansas quarterback, and Ryan knows, anyone who listens to this podcast knows, this is not just some love at first sight obsession with a quarterback. I hated him at the beginning of last season. I thought he was absolutely awful and was tanking Treylon Burks' draft stock single-handedly. I never thought that it'd be a guy I'd be going after, but I watched a lot of the Arkansas games for Burks, and as the season went on, as his confidence grew, you saw this dual threat ability quarterback come out of his shell. He is a real dangerous dual threat guy. He puts in the no-look throws in there. He's got that in his arsenal, which is great. He's another who's got great arm strength, and he's in a division where he's getting tested every single week against some of the best pass rushers in college football. So, for me, I'll talk about him more as the season goes on, but I am conductor, lead train guy on the KJ Jefferson Express for next season. So, he is one to watch, but there are so many more guys this year who are coming out in what is potentially a very stacked talented class. Now I'm going to list off some of the others here, and then we can talk about them and any of those who really interest us more. So outside of Jefferson and Levis, you have Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback from Miami, Florida, the new sensation there, whose ceiling is the stratosphere. You've got Tanner McKee from Stanford, Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina, Jake Hayner, the Fresno State quarterback, Jaron Hall, the BYU quarterback, Anthony Richardson, who's going to be the new starter at Florida. Hell of a lot of buzz about him. Incarnate Ward transfer, Cameron Ward, he has landed at Washington State. A lot of buzz about him again. And Devin Leary, North Carolina State as well. They're just a few of the guys who are coming through this year. Is there anyone on that list who's really, really speaking to you ahead of this season, and who you're really looking forward to seeing?
There's one you forgot to mention. Has everyone forgot Sam Hartman? One of the most, like I say, he's one of the most productive quarterbacks in the nation in the last few years. Like I say, he's not a flashy guy, and that's why he's easy to forget, isn't it? Like I say, because he's not dual threat, he's not the best rusher, but he keeps the turnovers down. Like I say, he had that Wake Forest offense scoring 35 points nearly every game last season, and that was when his running back Beal went down with an injury as well. Like I say, he is a really good pocket passer. I have a huge crush on Sam Hartman. Last 2 years, like I say, he had a phenomenal year. Like I say, can Wake Forest be as good as they were last year? And probably not, I don't think. But that won't be because of him. I'd like to see Sam Hartman get some end of the first round love, like I said, because we'll have another pick as well. Like I say, I know people like him. He's not that big, but I'd say right now he's probably, if you looked at college career, he's probably got the most production out of anyone that's draft eligible. Like I say, he has got like a couple of 3,000 plus yards here in his belt, and he's got a couple like 20, 30 touchdown seasons. So, like I say, he's certainly one to not sleep on.
Yeah, apologies about that. That's what I mean though. There's so much potential talent around this year. So many guys who, if they break out, people are really sleeping on this quarterback class. It is better than last year's, I think. Is the thing I want to say about this. It is much better, and the potential is there. I mean, we're both excited about Tyler Van Dyke and that Hurricanes offense. If he can get that going, I mean, as I said in the intro, his ceiling is the stratosphere if he gets going, and he could legit possibly be another guy who could get top 10 buzz if he has a great season, don't you think?
Yeah, I loved him last year. He came in at a really bad time. Miami had an awful year. Like I said, they had injuries, they had players dropping like flies. And he came in and he was a breath of fresh air. I swear the kid's like 6'4". He looks like the quarterback you want to build. He's built like Andrew Luck. He's stocky. He can make all the throws. He puts zip on the ball. He is phenomenal. Like I say, I'd like to see him in a healthy offense. Like I say, Miami playing good football, and I think he'll be one of the sleepers. I don't know if he'll be in next year's draft. I'm pretty sure he's only a freshman this year. I'm not sure if he'll even be eligible. I think this is his sophomore year, unless he was there 2 years and he's a junior. I'm not sure.
I think he is eligible. I think it is.
Is he a junior next year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he's certainly one to watch because Miami, by their standards, had a dreadful year. And he's lost weapons like Charleston Rambo, but they've picked some up and they've recruited some kids. If he can get 9-10 wins in a Miami team, like say, like you're going to be hearing that kid's name on Sundays because he looks like a pro quarterback he'd want, and he's young. He's got a big arm. He is one of the more talented quarterbacks in his class.
Yeah, fully agreed. The sky's the limit as far as he's concerned, and if that Hurricanes team start winning a lot more frequently now, the turnaround, like you say, from when he came in, that'll make a lot of people take notice. A guy who's come in, shown the leadership qualities to turn around a franchise in absolute disarray and move them forward towards a successful period. So that'll be great to look through there. Some of the other guys in there, so you've got Jaron Hall at BYU. He's got no Tyler Aligier this year, so he's going to have to come out his shell a bit more and play well, but the potential is there with him. Anthony Richardson, I don't know where you stand with him. All I've heard is reviews about how he is progressing. Obviously he's not played much there, but he's getting a lot of hype for not having played. But obviously people over there know a little bit more than we do. They see him a bit more. I mean, do you expect him to have an immediate impact on this Florida side? I really don't know enough to be able to say much about him, but again, he's one of the quarterbacks generating most buzz at the minute.
Yeah, I think he'll have an immediate impact. Florida has suddenly gone into an upward trajectory because they took Billy Napier, the coach from Louisiana, who is really highly thought of, and they've managed to bring in some recruits. Anthony Richardson, supreme athlete. Like I say, he is like the stud dual athlete with a fantastic arm as well. Like I say, he's flashy as well. Like I say, he's got a bit of swagger to him. I think, I don't know, it could be like a Heisman sleeper. Like I say, even if Florida have a good year, he'll be one of those guys that will be really up there. You can see him getting like 3,500 passing yards, a lot of rushing yards. Like I say, he's got a bit of a cockiness to him as well. Like I say, he's going to be, there's a lot of people are talking about him right now. He forced Emmett Jones out, which says a lot.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing as well. Again, like I say, he's one of those I've not really had much of a chance to look at, but with the hype going round, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. So yeah, you've got a lot of potential great guys in here if they're able to bed in. Then you've got the experienced guys. You've got Grayson McCall in there, Coastal Carolina, one of my favourite quarterbacks in there, one of my favourite teams in college at the minute, the way they play. You've got Jake Hayner at Fresno State. Bit of a odd decision that he decided to go back there. You'd think he would want to prove himself on a bit of a bigger circuit, because him and Grayson will suffer from lack of competition. That'll be their drawback in the draft, that they've not played at a higher level. But again, you've got so much talent, and that AAC especially, you've got Devin Leary in there. You've got so much talent in that division that there could potentially be some great quarterbacks come out. So yeah, that's sort of some of the quarterbacks to keep an eye on this coming year. Obviously someone comes out of nowhere all the time, so there'll be more, but we'll go into some of these guys in more detail as we go along. So that's the quarterbacks. Moving on, the next position I've identified as maybe needing help in next year's draft with the Lions is linebacker. Now, I know I've spoken a lot about how I like Rodriguez and Houston this year. Remains to be seen whether Houston goes in there or not, but this time next year, Anzalone will probably be done in a Lions uniform. Hopefully, you want to be bringing in his replacement there. We are banking on a lot of late round guys and swings like Chris Board to try and come in and do something. You've got to figure that it's going to be high at the list of priorities next year. And of course, this is a very pertinent subject for Lions fans, because there's a name in this group who's coming out next year who's now very synonymous with the Lions brand, and we absolutely love him to death. So I'll start with him. This is the year of Noah Sewell. We always said that he is the guy who's, he could potentially be better than Penei at his position. That's how good he has the potential to be. But man, I'm stoked to watch Noah Sewell play this year. And if it was up to me, I'd already pencil in one of our first round picks for him if we're picking in the right area. I'd love to have him on this team. How about you? You have to play against him.
He is an absolute hammer. Yeah. Yeah, he is phenomenal. I've enjoyed watching the kid so much. He does it all. He gets sacks, he gets forced fumbles, he gets fumble recoveries, he gets interceptions, like I say. And he's the new hybrid of linebacker. Look at how big he is. Like I say, you used to get linebackers that were like 5'11", 6 foot. Not this kid. He's He's like 6'3". Like say the guy's been like breastfed on like bloody concrete. Like say he looks all the part, and he's got that long flowing mane as well. He looks like Troy Polamalu, but at linebacker, and he hits just as hard. And he's actually got a teammate as well, Justin Flohr. Now, he has had lots of injuries in his career, but he is someone that I think will draft well as well. He was a huge 5-star recruit. They both have big draft aspirations for next year as well. That has potential, if they both stay healthy and play, to be the best inside linebacking duo in the nation. If they both live up to their potential and they both stay healthy and play well, and Oregon do well, those two are going to be real trouble for people. They're going to terrorize some offenses. I am praying that Justin is able to get it together next year, and then Noah, like I say, Noah is going to be in the middle to the back end of the first, and like I say, would he love to come play with his brother? I'm sure he would, yeah.
And could you imagine this defense with Noah implanted in there, with those guys in the front seven in front of him? I mean, Jesus Christ, our first two levels will be, impregnable, I would say. If the guys come along in the front seven like they should this year, and Noah's in the backfield backing them up, then it's like, Christ almighty, that's just something you love there. But yeah, you mentioned Justin Flohr. I was about to say, there's two teams this year who possess a pair of linebackers who, these are the two teams to watch if you're into your linebackers. But Justin Flohr, he only played one game last year, got 14 tackles in that one game. He's a guy who likes to get involved and, cause turnovers again. He's just probably maybe why he's injured so much if he's going in there. But, he is incredibly talented, and everything I've heard about him is he's a first-round pick potentially if he stays healthy. So if that Oregon pair stay healthy this year, then the Pac-12's in a lot of trouble when it comes to playing against Oregon and that linebacking core. You saw it last year, just how good he could be. Sewell's going to be even better. If Flo's back and healthy, then yeah, opposition running backs and receivers are in for a lot of trouble going forward. But the other team who also possess a good pair of linebackers this year, and this may be sort of questioned because this guy at Alabama, who's a potential number one pick last year, he's an edge linebacker hybrid. I like to think he is a bit more of a linebacker, but he's on the edge as well. Obviously, Will Anderson, the sensation who absolutely destroyed the SEC last year, and I mean destroyed, absolutely. I think it was over 46 tackles for loss and sacks combined. This man just lived in opposition backfields and blew up so many offensive lines it wasn't even funny. I'm kind of classing him in the linebacker group because you can play him there. Maybe he's an edge, but alongside him you've got the other linebacker there, the guy who actually is a linebacker at Alabama. So that's Henry Tuo, or Tuo. I think that's it, Tuo. But he, again, in his own right, this is like, he's going to replace Christian Harris at the heart of that defense this year. He's going to take over his responsibilities there, and he's another great prospect who's coming through. So Alabama is a place to look for linebackers again this year. Those two could be just as good a pairing as Flo and Sewell can.
Yeah, definitely. Will Anderson, he will be the number one draft pick next year. He would have gone number one this year without a shadow of a doubt. There wouldn't been anyone that come close to him. He will go, I think, first next year because he is an absolute game wrecker. I think it was 34.5 tackles for loss, and I think he had 20.5 sacks. Something like that. He had, 54 combined, which were records. He should have won the Heisman. I had him as my Heisman winner. He was outstanding. He was the best player in the nation. He is scary as well. I don't know what you do at the next level. Like I say, he is basically Micah Parsons. Like I say, he's going to be an edge rusher, but we don't need that. But can you just put him a linebacker and keep him there? I feel like you're wasting him. So I feel like if we took him, we'd have to try and adjust. It would mean the end of someone. So that is a conundrum I don't really want to think about right now, how you use him. But best defensive player in the nation. He is going to absolutely destroy sides. And yep, Henry Tuo, like I say, he's very experienced as well. He's been around at the program for a long time now. He's stout in the middle. Like I say, good against the run. We can still get in the backfield there. He's a bit more patient, a bit more reserved than someone like, say, the Will Anderson, but still very versatile as well. So, Alabama are going to be good again this year, and those two should have fantastic years. they'll just reload that defensive seven, that defensive front. It's just gonna refresh.
Yeah, there's like the sketch of the Patriots where like just Belichick has this machine that just like dumps players and reloads them, and it's just like that, really, isn't it? Like you say, they lose all this talent to the draft, yet they're the one team who never seem to suffer. Not like LSU or Clemson or something like that, who were suffering big from, bad, from draft classes which rinse them of all the talent. Whereas Alabama just keep on going. So Alabama and Oregon, the place to watch for linebackers this year, with multiple ones in there. But that doesn't mean there isn't anyone anywhere else. So obviously Georgia just had their entire defense drafted this year, half of them in the first round, one of the best defenses of all time there. And there are still some players there who are going to come through this year. And the big linebacker who's there
Nolan Smith.
Yeah, Ryan's got it. Nolan Smith. And this guy put up big numbers last year in that defense. This wasn't like he got lost in the shuffle like Key Walker or someone like that did. This is a guy who produced a lot. He got really good production, and now he's going to have all the shine on him this year, as you were, because there were that many guys in Georgia last year. The limelight gets shared around, but if he has another good season there, then you could potentially be looking at a linebacker 2, linebacker 3 in this class. That's how good he could be. I'm looking forward to watching him this year.
I am. I'm surprised. I'm pretty sure he was eligible last year. He's had his junior year. I think he should have gone last year to the draft. And he had a great year. I think he's just struck while the iron were hot, because this linebacker class that we just had was a bit weak in the NFL. Like I say, I think he's miles. I think he's a lot better than Quay Walker. And look where he went this year. So I think I agree, yeah. He's in that first round, end of the first round. Because, like I say, it was 55 tackles, 3 forced fumbles. He had a couple of sacks too. He was pretty good last year. And now the linebacker room is almost cleared out. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him. He is now that veteran guy. He is now that third-year player that everyone has to look up to. And he will have to put the man on his back and put that call on his back. So there's going to be a lot of people watching him now. Like I say, so now is the time to step up, and he could very well be linebacker 2 and going in the middle of the first round.
I guess that's the thought process, though. I guess he's thinking, well, my entire stacked defense is going to the draft this year. There's going to be a lot of competition for places. If he can have that great year where he's able to assert solo dominance over that defense, he could go as high as like a Devin Lloyd this year, etc. Maybe reach the top half of the teams. It's worth a lot of money to a player, and he's betting on himself. So again, Nolan Smith, Georgia, keep an eye on that if you want your linebackers. A few other names knocking around as well. So you've got Trenton Simpson, who's the new guy at, well, not the new guy, but he's the guy in the spotlight now at Clemson, now that their 2 incumbents left last year, Skolsky and I can't remember the other one. But the 2 veterans have gone out that room. He has got a lot more hype than either of the 2 before him. Spectre, that was it. But I know Trenton has a lot more hype about him in terms of how high he could go in this draft, so he's going to be up to be seen this year. You've got Andre Carter, the Army guy. I know you're a big fan of him as well. He had an incredible year last year, and if he can put similar stats up again, then he's going to be causing a lot of problems in the draft going forward. You've got Cam Arnold at Boston College. The one I'm really looking forward to seeing is, though, I liked my Utah linebackers last year. I'm going back to Utah again because they brought in a transfer from Florida. His name is Mohamed Diabate. This guy is a physical specimen and a half. Again, taller on the side of a linebacker, but insane athleticism. His ability in coverage could match what Devin Lloyd did. They are grooming him to be the next Devin Lloyd, to be as good as he was. And the way they were able to develop Devin Lloyd, you put your money on them being able to do it again. But this is a guy he's not as well known about at the minute in terms of some of the linebackers next year. But I don't know about you, Ryan. I think he's going to be talked about very, very quickly if he settles in quickly there.
Yeah, it's a good spot for him. Like I say, strong defense. He'll be able to step into those shoes that have just been left by Lloyd. I think that's a good fit for him. He's transferred at just the right time to a team that has a need. So there's a hole there for him. And with the Pac-12 as a whole in a huge transition period, like I say, how will Oregon do under their new head coach? Will all the USC recruits click quickly? Will they hit the ground running? big questions. Maybe Utah can capitalize on that because they kept the core, even though they lost a few to the draft. So I think they'll still refresh. I think they'll still be a threat in the Pac-12 next year again.
Yeah, agreed. I think he's found himself a perfect landing spot. He's bet on himself because it's not like he wasn't getting game time at Florida there. So, you know, if he can put himself in that Utah system, they can win again. He's got to his draft stock, no end of good. Is there anyone else at linebacker who is catching your eye for this season going on? There's a few there from me, but anyone else who you want to give an honourable mention to and introduce to people?
Oh, yeah, there's a guy that has also got a fantastic name. He's called Cervosia Dennis, the linebacker from Pittsburgh. He's had 2 fantastic years. He's had like 140 tackles in the last 2 years. He's got 8 sacks as well. He is a bit of a menace in that backfield and the likes of Pittsburgh. And they've lost a few players to the draft. So I think this is going to be his time to shine. I think he's going to be one of those sneaky guys that he's probably a middle rounder right now, but if a good year, I think he can get people talking about him. Like I say, if he matches what he did in 2020 and 2021, like I say, I think he could be that guy where you're looking at like a Moom or a Chanel, like a 2nd to 3rd round kind of guy. But I think he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, agreed. I think I'm looking forward to see him as well. And then obviously, my guy from last year, Edef-Juan Olafosio, is going back to Washington. Can he stay healthy? Can he do something at linebacker as well? Then hopefully so, because he got derailed by injury last year, and that was sad to see. Before we just move on to the end of the linebackers, going back to the Georgia defense, One Pride 40 is in the chat. He mentions about Jalen Carter. He goes as far as saying, Jalen Carter, aka Aaron Donald. Now this is another Georgia lineman who's probably going to come out this year, and again, seen a lot of high rankings on him. Yeah, this Georgia defense is just crazy, and the guys that he's produced. Do you reckon he is Aaron Donald-esque? I know he's very damn good, but that's high praise to put on him.
That's the highest praise to put on any defensive lineman ever, isn't it, really, now? Like you say, Aaron Donald is the pinnacle. I'm struggling to think of the era of I know football, any better defensive player than Aaron Donald. So that is very high praise. It's a lot to live up to as well. Like you say, when you look at all the players that just hit the draft and how good Georgia were last year, I kind of worry. Is there any way Georgia defense can live up to last year? Because last year they've given up 7.8 points a game for like a 10-game stretch.
Until they played Alabama.
One of the greatest defenses in the modern history of football. I don't think they can live up to that. Like I said, I think they can be a bit more porous last year, but they won't be too bad. Like I said, they'll still be great, but I don't think they can live up to the hype last year. The bar has been set a little bit too high. So Jalen Carter is going to have a good job on him to try and repeat like some of his teammates have done this year.
Well, like I say, the guys who were left behind now have the chance to shine individually. They shined as one of the best units ever in the college game last year. Now they can put forward their own individual accolades as well. So, the potential is there for that. One Pride does ask, what about Jalen Carter? Well, he is defensive line. We are talking about positions the Lions might need next year. We don't need D-line next year, I guess. If everything goes to plan, I guess if Levi busts, then maybe we do need to talk about it. But I think in terms of main things there, well, obviously Jalen Carter's a hell of a player. So, yeah, absolutely looking forward to seeing him. He also says MSU beasts you of them again. Yeah, they could do, but they're going to have a real big job replacing Kenneth Walker. That's the first thing they've got to do, because that's how that offense hummed last year and beat them. Kenneth Walker single-handedly took down, well, not single-handedly, but, he dragged them towards that win last year, so hopefully they can get a guy in who can sort of replicate that there, but I think Peyton Thorne and that are going to do well, so we'll see with them. Right, so we've done quarterback, we've done linebacker. The third position of need I had was safety. Now, obviously, we drafted Kirby Joseph this year, but he is a third-round pick, and Tracy Walker's here, which is great, but after that, the depth is not there. Hopefully the Will Harris experiment is over in 12 months, but again, we've sort of got developmental guys who are maybe in there, and I still feel like it's going to be a priority come next draft, and I know people are sick of the term safety, now, but we do have to sort of maybe discuss some of the guys who are here this year. You'll be pleased to know we'll not be taking a safety in the top 10. There's no guys like that in the draft this year, so we don't need to worry about that argument. But in the SEC especially, there are a lot of good safeties.
I don't know.
You are? Oh, right. Well, we'll get into it in a second. In fact, where's my list there? But I don't know if there's a top. Well, maybe there is, but you know we've had this for a little while now. So yeah, safety. Some of the guys who are coming up next year. So obviously the first one that jumps out, one who we thought was going to commit this year, but John Battle is at Alabama. He's going back there this year. It was a surprise. He didn't go in the draft this time around. Maybe he's trying to get his stock up. I don't know what's gone on there, but I mean, I think it might be, and I'm not going to sort of battle, it's going to be a battle there, but I think the one I'm most intrigued about seeing this year, should have been seeing him in the college game this year that you're going to see in Ireland, but he transferred out. He's gone to replace Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame, and that is Brandon Joseph. Brandon Joseph has gone to Notre Dame to fill the massive shoes that Kyle Hamilton has left behind. But Brandon Joseph is a hell of a safety, a shining light in that rotten arse Northwestern team that there was last year. I mean, I guess you've just said there's no potential top 10 safety this year, but can he prove us wrong?
Yeah, he's the best safety in the nation. I'm just going to put it out there now. He has been brought in to replace Kyle Hamilton, and I'm not saying he's going to be Kyle Hamilton, but he's going to give his damn best to try and impersonate him. 2021, he had a really good year. Like I said, 80 tackles. He had 3 interceptions. He had a sack. He had a fumble recovery. Like I said, leaving Northwestern was a really good idea. When he knew that Kyle Hamilton was hitting the draft and he knew that Notre Dame were going to have a spot for him, he pounced. And it's going to be such a good match for him. Like I say, he plays that same position. He is the sideline to sideline, freaky athlete, free safety they need. Notre Dame could be like one of the best teams in the entire nation this year. The level of recruiting they've done, if they can fill the quarterback spot that they struggled with last year when they're rotating all the guys, they're going to do big things. And this guy is going to be part of one of them. I think he could be a top 10, 15 pick next year if he repeats this year.
I hope Old Dominion's listening, because he used to get upset about how much we ragged on Notre Dame last year and their quarterbacks. So, you know, getting a lot of praise at the minute, so hopefully he's around to hear that. But I agree, I love the Brandon Joseph move. I think that's a sensible use of the transfer portal. You know, the opportunity for him to go and shine in a potential playoff side. He's really damn good. He's going up to a team where there's high expectations and he can fill them. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play this year. I'm not going to get on the hype train yet, because we've just killed everyone with our talk about Notre Dame safeties for the last 6 months. But yeah, Notre Dame did a hell of a job getting him in to replace Kyle Hamilton, because that was always going to be a tough ask there. But like I say, he's going to be fighting it out for the top guys there. So obviously you've got Jordan Battle at Alabama. One Pride in the chat putting in some good suggestions. He obviously makes a good suggestion here. The other safety at Alabama, Malachi Moore, is there as well. That's going to be a good safety room this year, and if some teams decide to try and get aggressive at them and start throwing on them, potential for some problems there, because these two are able to lock it down. They're both pretty good against the run there as well, so that's an interesting pair to look at safety going forward. But there are a few interesting pairs from teams knocking round this year. So the one I want to drop on, because we talked about him last year, so you've got the Smith brothers at Georgia. I don't think they're actually brothers, they're just called Smith, but you've got Christopher Smith, who played there last year, and then you've got the returning Dyke Smith. So if you remember when we did safeties last year, you know, I found the clip where we were talking about Lewis Seen, but Dyke Smith was in the conversation with him. Those were meant to be one of the best safety pairings in college, but Dyke got injured, but he is healthy now, he is coming back, and they've got another guy in there with Christopher Smith. Just like Alabama, Georgia, potentially a rich spot for safeties again this year.
Yeah, Dyke Smith, when he was at West Virginia, he was like, I think he was like a 5-star recruit. I think he was really good there. And then last year, was it a torn ACL or a torn pectoral? He had a really bad injury, didn't he, before the year? He missed the entire year. I'm hoping that he's pissed off and he's going to have a massive redemption year, because Dyke Smith, he is PFF's third best safety going at the NFL 2023 next draft on their 2 early safety boards. So there's big things expected of him. Like I said, I'm hoping he's going to replace Lewis Seen, and I think if he's fully healthy, once he gets ready to camp and go, I think teams are really going to worry about throwing to him, because he is going to be playing and he knows this is kind of it. Like I say, this has got to be the year. He does not want to be returning for his senior year, because usually when things go like that happen, it kills your stock and things usually go wrong. So this junior year for him is going to be really big. Like I say, if they're going to try emulate last year's defense, it's going to have to start on the back end as well. Someone's going to have to replace Lewis Seen.
Yeah, and that'll have been the even more galling thing for him. Like I say, last 12 months ago, we were talking about those two in the same breath, just how good they are, and Smith was potentially maybe better than Seen, and he's watched Seen go in the first round of an NFL draft whilst he's been sat injured. So that's going to be galling even more so for him. So I really hope for his sake he's able to get on the field this year and see it. But like I say, he's got backup again this year. Don't sleep on the other Smith at Georgia. Christopher Smith in his own right is also a very good safety developing there. So they're in good hands. They could potentially have lost a lot in that secondary, but again, they're one of those teams who's able to replace them in there as well. The other numbers pairing we've got when it the other pairing we've got when it comes to safeties is the numbers pairing at Florida. So you have Trey Dean the third, and you've got Rashad Torrance the second, both in the numbers game there. Florida, again, another team who could have a sneaky good backfield this year. These two, at the minute, both sort of mid in their, rankings and that what people have of them. But again, if they show the development there, that is the makings of a very good safety pairing.
Yeah, Florida looked good this year. Like I say, I know Florida had a rough year last year. Like I say, things didn't go their way, but I think I'm hoping they're going to get a bounce back. Like I say, that's a very solid pair. Like I say, they're both coming in healthy. Like I say, having knowing each other and trusting each other as well. That's half the battle with safety. If you don't play single high, if you play a lot of cover two, and you have two safeties that cover half the field each, you've got to trust each other. You've got to be able to rely on each other at the same time, because you'll often make each other look good, or you can make each other look really bad. So they're coming in as experienced veterans as well. Like I say, they aren't two freshmen, they're not two. They know the system well now, so Billy Napier's going to be putting a lot of pressure on them to be those generals on the back end. So Florida could have a really good draft next year. If things go well this year, they could be sending a lot more bodies than they did this year, because they had a real down year by their standards.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of talent in that team, and a lot of individuals who, we're looking forward to seeing play this year. So again, hopefully that team can do better and some of these individuals are allowed to shine in there. Just quickly breaking off into the chat, One Pride 40 still in there. Oh, Chrome's in as well. What up, Doe? Thank you to you, sir, for being in as always. But One Pride 40 goes, what about quarterback? We discussed quarterback. That was the first one that we did, because it is going to be a need next year. We didn't mention the two obvious ones because, that they are who they are. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. We're not sold on either of them yet. Not to the point of being number one picks. Got burned last year doing that. Not going to do it again. But Will Levis is in there. KJ Jefferson is in there. You've got guys from the ACC. You've got Sam Hartman, Devin Leary. You've got Grayson McCall, Jake Hayner. There's a lot. We like the talent at quarterback going into this year. There's a lot of untapped potential. Tyler Van Dyke, Anthony Richardson, but Will Levis, KJ Jefferson, two of the big ones at this moment in time. So, yeah, we're keeping a very close eye on the quarterbacks. Don't worry about that one. He also mentions corner, potentially, but I'm hoping some of our corners step up this year, which means it's not much of a problem going into next year's draft. He also says he would love to have Jalen Carter on the team. Well, yes, we would love to have Will Anderson on the team next year as well, but it feels like a luxury at this point. It feels like a luxury, a defensive line. We've got that much on there already, so we'll see. My guy is Grayson McCall. With you on that. Love watching Coastal every Wednesday. They're one of the first. No, it's like Thursday morning here, but one of the first games on college every week. Love watching Coastal. they're a great team. Grayson McCall's a really good quarterback. I would just prefer that he maybe have got to a bigger side and was able to show it against some more established teams than in the Sun Belt, but someone's going to get a steal there with him. Back to the safety talk anyhow. We've gone through some of the doubles, the pairings that we've got in here, but a lot of also individual talent knocking round. You've got Jalen Catalon from Arkansas, Avery Young from Rutgers. Rutgers might have a guy in the draft this year because, they had Bo Melton this year, but very little else going. But Avery Young's a very intriguing prospect there. I've put in Jamie Robinson just because I feel sorry for Ash from Florida State. He is a safety going in next year's draft. He could potentially be good, but not saying anything about him yet. Just putting a bit of Florida State in there because we've mentioned Florida a hell of a lot, but hey ho. And a year would not be complete without me having a safety crush in the draft. 2 years ago it was Richie Grant. Last year it was Kyle Hamilton. And we're going to start another train this year for another safety from a team that not many would expect, but this is a guy who is getting a lot of underground buzz going into this season. He plays for Louisiana Tech. His name is BJ Williamson, and I've discovered that I am a big fan of birds doing all this. I'm a big fan, particularly of hawks, specifically ball hawks. This guy is a ball hawk. I love safeties who are able to read quarterbacks, who are able to make big plays in games, get those turnovers. This is a guy whose potential is potentially limitless. I love him as a player. He had a really good year last year. You can just see by the way he plays the game that there's just so much promise there with him. And he's one that I'm already falling in love with very, very, very quickly. So this is the name you're going to be hearing on the safety train all year. But, I mean, out of all those names there, Ryan, is there any that stick out to you, or is there anyone else we've not mentioned this year that's looking good for you at safety?
Yeah, there's on the other side of Louisiana, you've got Louisiana Cardinals, you've got Kenderick Duncan. Like I say, he's a ball hawk too. He has 7 interceptions in those 4.5 years. And he's also got about 200 tackles. He's 6'3", so he's very much in that mold of Kyle Hamilton. He is a general. He is big. Like I say, he plays at 220. He's imposing. He can come downhill, but he's able to get the ball out the air as well. So he's someone that is coming into his final year as well. He's very experienced. So I think he'll be one of the risers next year, and he's certainly a name to watch out for.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there. Louisiana, potentially an underrated place to go and look for safeties this year. Both of them very good in their own right. I'm good I actually missed his name off the list. I think I was thinking about the guy from there, but I could not remember his name, but obviously very right. Very good player in his own right. So the Louisiana, looking forward to seeing some of the safeties there. One Pride thought he goes, so skill positions next year when Holmes goes completely overkill. We've gone overkill on the trenches the last 2 years. Just as an aside, before we talk about the last position group, would you expect next year, right now, to be skill position centric rather than the trenches anymore?
Yeah, I don't want to touch the trenches. If we took a D-line in the first round next year, an offensive lineman, I'd be really pissed off. We've strengthened the lines. Like I say, it's time to look at the strength. It's time to look at the skill positions. It's fine protecting the quarterback, and it's fine being able to get there, but someone else has got to make something happen, because they're not going to make anything happen, are they? They're just going to give us a strong corner, strong backbone. Someone's got to be able to capitalise on opportunities they're going to create, and that starts with a safety, or a running back, or a linebacker. So let's trench next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing I would say is maybe I'd like a day 2 pick on the offensive line for depth. That tackle depth worries the hell out of me, and next year we've got a decision to make about Big V. I still want to keep him, but I would spend a day 2 pick on, but that's it. The rest is skill players. The secondary has been neglected big time. Very, very, very big time, and next year needs to be the draft of skill positions. So yeah, that would be the idea. One Pride 40 there. He also goes, my concern is that Goff plays decent and Holmes gives him an extension. I will be really, really angry. Well, if Goff plays decent and we get into the playoffs, would we be angry? I don't know how this plays out with Jared Goff. even if he plays really well, are we still not going to accept him? Or it's a big decision next year. In 12 months is a massive decision for the future of this franchise, whether Goff plays well or not. But if he played well this year and got us in the playoffs, would you be pissed if they extended him?
No, but I'm not giving him a load of money. If he comes in and asks for a load of money just because he expects it, I'll tell him piss off. I will lowball him. Like I say, I am not putting my entire franchise into him. I am not giving him the deal that he's got now.
So you're not giving him...
I'm not tying myself to him long term.
So
he's getting a 1 year extension.
Yeah, so you give him money that doesn't tie us to him long term so that he can't get comfy and be bad.
I'll only give him a year.
I could live with that, but I think if Goff plays decent and plays well and we get in the playoffs, I wouldn't mind as much, because I'd rather build the team around him. If he plays well this year and we can just spend all next year's first round picks on skill players and, you know, upgrade the trenches more, team's built quicker. Don't have to go after your quarterback, but I don't know. I guess it is going to be a catch-22. A lot of people are going to be mad, a lot of people are going to be happy, so hey ho. I mean, there's always other things you can do. Dat fan man here, they've mentioned it again. You know, General Booty.
We'll still draft a quarterback, though.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
if you give him a 1 year extension, we'll still draft a quarterback. I would be happily fine with that scenario. If he gives us 9 wins and we give him 1 year of like $15 million and then we draft a quarterback as well, I'll be happy as punch. Got the wins, he's still here, and hopefully we've got a quarterback to take over and he's not cost us an arm and a leg. Because next year we're projected to have what? Like $70 million to play with or something?
Loads.
I'll give Jared Goff 10-15 million with that. Yeah, so that's fine.
Loads. And Brockers saves like 10 million if you cut him. Hopefully the D-line doesn't need him by then. So, yeah, I guess one pride, would you be happier with that? If Goff had a good season, we still drafted a quarterback, he was on less money, future looks pretty bright then, so I wouldn't mind that too much. There is another answer though, and Det Fan Man's mentioned it again. It goes, and General Booty debuts as a rookie. We got to talk this into existence. Imagine the crowd in Detroit when Booty gets selected by the home team. Imagine my joy as our Twitter guy. I will have so much fun with the name General Booty on Twitter that it would just keep me going for years. But we need to see how he does as a player first. So yeah, let's maybe peg that one back a little bit. One part before it goes, so quarterback, cornerback, safety, running backs, linebackers, this team is pretty much loaded. Well, we're loaded on D-line, we're loaded at wide receiver. That's pretty much it. I'd take cornerback out. Running back, so getting back to the topic at hand, we've talked about quarterbacks, we've talked about linebackers, talked about safeties. Is there anyone else you want to mention at safety before we move on for now?
Nope.
Nope, that's fine. So we're going to move on to the running back, and I'm really glad Ryan said this at the top of the show, but my fourth position for next year is running back. Jamal Williams is out of contract. DeAndre Swift, who knows what's going to go on with him. We are going to be a year closer to having to pay him if he's healthy and plays well, or he might have another year where his injuries don't stop happening and we have to cut ties with him. Running back could potentially be a need, at least a day 2 need for us next year, if we want to keep the offense as streamlined and balanced as we can. So to finish this off, we're going to go through some of the running backs for next year, and to be honest, I look at this list of running backs and some of these guys on here and I smile, because I like the thought of some of these guys on a team. But you know, we can start. I mean, okay, I'll ask you the question: who's your consensus running back one right now at this moment in time going into the season?
It's got to be Bijan Robinson. It's not the player I've highlighted, but I think after you saw what he did last year, he was absolutely decimating sides.
Yeah,
he was Texas. He was Texas. He put Texas on his back, and now he's back this year. I think he'll be scary good. He's my current. He could have won the Heisman last year if he had not got hurt. If he don't get hurt and plays all this year, he will be fully in the Heisman contest. And not many running backs will be able to say that, apart from Trayvon Henderson. But yeah.
Yeah, and we've got, and obviously they've got, I don't know if he starts, but Quinn Ewers is there this year, so maybe the offense is a little bit more streamlined and it's not all on him to force it to happen. Maybe you get more production out of him that way. So yeah, I'd agree. Bijan Robinson is at the top of the list. Just what sort of running back is he? I mean, he's just, because you've watched him a bit more than I have, but what would you say to people? What sort of running back is he?
He's a bruiser. Like I say, he's built really well. He is not shy of contact, but he's also got that fantastic burst of speed, and he's got great dynamic and vision. He sees the hole, he hits the hole, and then he heads for a pylon. He is the home run guy. Like I say, I can't remember. Was it TCU last year, Texas, when they were like 40-0 up at half time?
Yeah.
I think and he went absolutely wild in that game. I think in the first half he had like 170 yards or something stupid. Like I said, he has got ridiculous numbers, and he's not got much mileage on his clock either. Even though you could run it up on him, that's because of injury. Like I say, so I can't see many people taking that off him this year.
No, I fully agree. I think at the minute, Bijan Robinson is definitely running back one. When Pride 40 quickly goes, what about offensive line? If you want to see a man transform into the Hulk because of anger, tell the Lions to draft an offensive lineman in the first round next year, because Ryan will do that transformation. He will transform into the Hulk because of the anger he will have if you draft him. You're drafting depth next year. Good depth. So maybe a little higher, but certainly not earlier. And he goes, we should sign Eddie Lacy. Stop it with the jokes. I'm trying to do a show here and trying not to laugh. That would also be quite funny. Right, so other running backs. So after him, I mean, you've got a smorgasbord of different kind of guys that you've got in here. So I'll list some of the other ones off. We can talk about them and then maybe add some others in. But obviously we've got the adequately named Tank Bigsby. Oban, he's coming back for another year. We were really high on him last year. Don't know what's kind of going to go on with him this season. But he's back for another year if he dominates, potentially go be in there. You got Jahmyr Gibbs, you mentioned Alabama, Georgia Tech transfer. He's going to go crazy, and we can talk about him more in a second. Zach Evans at Ole Miss, I think that's another match made in heaven. I think he's going to absolutely destroy the world there, and he could easily be running back one by the end of this year. You got Sean Tucker at Syracuse, another great running back. Mohamed Ibrahim, injury last year, man. That was one of the most sorry I ever felt for a player last year. He had such a great start to that year before injury, and that robbed him potentially of something great there. Got Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky, Zach Charbonnet from UCLA, Deuce Vaughn from Kansas, Devon Akane from Texas A&M. I mean, like I say, there is a smorgasbord of running backs here in the draft this year. But I mean, I guess, are we going to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs first? I mean, you said it earlier. This is a man who can destroy the world at Alabama next year.
He is Mr. Dual Threat. He is Mr. Run the ball. He is Mr. Catch ball at reception, because that's all he did in a just offense. He took passes, he took handoffs, and he put up fantastic numbers in an offense that without him was stagnant. When he entered the portal, I wasn't amazed, and I just knew he was going to get the best score. He is going to get he's going to get an NFL ready offensive line. And he is going to run wild. He is going to be another sleeper Heisman candidate. I think he's fantastic. Like I say, he can do everything. He's not the biggest, he's only like 5'11", but he's got supreme speed. He hits holes, he gets through small gaps, he follows blocks, he does as he's told, and then trying to keep up with him, trying to bring him down, he's really difficult because he is super shifty. Like I say, I think he's one of the biggest impact transfers of the entire year.
Oh, absolutely. And, Brian Robinson's gone. The spot's open for him, to be able to dominate on that offense. He's made the perfect transfer there. And you fear what's going to happen to teams in the SEC with him running at them next year. I mean, again, if he has a good year in the SEC, proving it against top opposition, he could easily be running back one there, but he's got competition. And, we've said that the outstanding guy is Bijan Robinson already, but you cannot discount Zach Evans now that he has transferred out of TCU to go to Ole Miss. And I know Ole Miss are a
Zach Evans, and circling. The moment we were told pick players, he was the running back I wrote down. And he is going to upset a lot of people because you either love him or you hate him. The kid is really not likable. His college career so far, he is a diva. He was the highest recruit in TC history. He was a 5-star. I think his 24/7 number was like 0.9955. Basically, one is a complete perfect player. He was one of the best running backs ever. But Last year, before entering the portal, he deleted all the photos of TCU off his Instagram. He added them all back. But his freshman year, he got limited touches and still had 700 yards. Like I said, this year, he's not been on the field. He's not seen the field much. But that was personal. He chose not to. That team suffered without him. Now, Ole Miss are in a flux. Like I say, they've got Jackson Darting at quarterback, who is very inexperienced. Very high recruit, but he has very little experience. So what does he need? He needs a running back to help carry him. And I think Lane Kiffin getting Zach Evans, if those two don't fall out, if Zach Evans keeps his head in the game and he goes, he is going to be a 12, 1300 yard back easily. He is dynamic. He's aggressive. He has got attitude. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He can run angry. It's just all up here. When he's interested and when he's motivated, he is on it, and he could be running back one in the next draft. If he's not interested and he falls out with people, he gets in trouble, he might not even be on the team at the end of the year. He is Mr. Boom and Mr. Bust.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what we can agree on is if he booms, then that's the top 3 running back in this class. I mean, are we putting Bijan Robinson, Zach Evans, and Jahmyr Gibbs as the top 3 this year? Like, by a distance. Is that elite so far, tier? Yeah, that's elite tier 1, let's say. And those 3 are in there.
In the upper gaps, Sean Tucker.
Yeah.
He is really underrated.
Yeah.
He has put some massive numbers at Syracuse, isn't it? He's put some huge numbers.
And that's with Garrett Schrader taking thousands of rushing yards off him as well. Imagine if he's running back 1 there, not 2 behind his quarterback.
He should have transferred, like I said. And I've noticed, I followed him on Twitter, and I've noticed that every game he plays, he tweets exactly how he feels, and he puts all his stats as well. He is someone that is obsessed by numbers and getting better. He breaks down all his yardage. A lot of guys don't care about numbers. Sean Tucker does. He looks at every rushing yard. He looks at his average. He looks at touchdowns. He tweets out for the world to see how he feels. He's very vocal, and he is someone that has been used probably not to strength, like I say, because he was in Garrett Schrader as a running quarterback, so he did have to compete for his own touches and snaps. But he's put up some massive numbers on a team and an offense that has not been very good in a very difficult conference. Syracuse have never had it easy. They've always struggled with the big boys. But Sean Tucker could be this year's Sincere McCormick. Like I say, massive numbers, doesn't get no love, doesn't get no respect, but that's just because of where he's played. Like I say, and he seems like a really likeable kid.
Yeah, I agree. And like I say, where he's at might not get him respect, but if you're tiering these guys, we've got the top 3, but I think he's immediately on the tier below. You know, behind these 3, I think he represents some of the best of who there is in the league this year. And I guess, you know, there are some other guys you put in there. I guess Tank is on there as well. One Pride says he feels like he's been at Auburn forever, which I guess it does. I guess he must be nearing super senior status up there or something. He feels like he's been there a long time, but Tank is also in that second tier of running backs this year. I mean, him on that team, which again was not great with Bo Nix Marshall in it last year, still a hell of a lot of production in there, and it was kind of surprising he didn't declare, I think.
I was very surprised he didn't declare, and I was also surprised he didn't transfer. I saw on Twitter he was considering it in the portal. I don't know why he didn't. Auburn has not been the right place for him ever. Like I say, they're very average. Like Auburn have been very average since even in the remaining years of Gus Malzahn, and now since he left, no one's scared of them anymore. There's no threat. No one feels threatened by Auburn. Like I say, he's had a good offensive line. He has had so many touches. He has had a huge workload. He's put in lots of numbers. They've not created that many holes for him. Like I say, he's had to take a lot of hits. He's had to be very physical. There's a reason they call him Tank Bigsby, Jatarius Bigsby. Like I say, because he's a bruiser. Like I say, he initiates contact. He breaks tackles. It's to think what he could have done on a better team is pretty remarkable. Like I say, he's done really well on a team that's good, not great. On a playoff side, he could have been phenomenal. If he was at Bama, I think he'd have put on stupid numbers.
Yeah.
I think he should have he should have left. He's not left. But yeah, he'll probably still have a really good year, even if Auburn don't again. He'll have solid draft stock.
Yeah, I think he could, if he'd have gone in the portal before Gibbs, he could potentially have taken that spot at Alabama. That could be him now. And his stock would be where Jahmyr Gibbs is now. He's right in Tier 1 territory and, to the moon, as it were, with that. One Brad goes, is he better than Kerryon? Tank? Yeah, I would say.
It's not half about Kerryon.
Yeah.
Kerryon was decent at Auburn, but always had the fumbling issues and injuries as well.
Yeah, Tank's like a full... I guess they're a different player, aren't they? Tank's like a proper bruiser. He'd be like a bell cow in a lot of them, whereas Kerryon was never a bell cow. I think that would be the big difference there.
Tank Bigsby could come out of this being a running back one. He showed a lot of loyalty to Auburn, which is actually something to credit him on. I don't think he should have been as loyal. I think he's probably not put his best interests at heart when you think about it.
Yeah.
He could have picked up that last grad transfer year. He could have been an instant starter and on a better side. But it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. Like I said, I don't know who the Auburn quarterback even is this year. I don't even know how their offense is set up. So he is in line. He's going to be getting 200-300 touches if he stays healthy. So there's going to be a lot of mileage on his clock when he gets to the league.
Yeah, exactly, and that can work for and against you. So James Cook go high this year, no mileage on the clock, but that worked in his favour. I guess the last one out of these guys then, who could threaten these top tiers, but I spoke about him, the injury was horrible. We spoke about Mohamed Ibrahim, Minnesota Gopher, last year. Had a wonderful start to the season, and you're thinking, oh my god, this guy's running back one. Clearly, this coming draft. The injury hits. I mean, I don't know, I guess, is that sort of done him in as a running back one contender this year, or do we reckon he can come back and reclaim it?
I don't know. Didn't he tear like 3 ligaments in his knee? Yeah. Didn't he tear ACL and MCL? He did, didn't he?
So, yeah. It was horrible.
I don't know. This is the kind of injury that can end a person. So if he's able to come back and have a good year and show that he's able to overcome injury, it will go a very long way towards his draft stock. This is proper adversity territory. And I'm pretty sure out of all the guys I've listed, he's the biggest and he's the strongest. I'm pretty sure the guy's like 6'2", 6'3".
I thought he was 6'4".
He's somewhere like that. He is absolute mountain. He is the workhorse every down back. He's been super productive as well.
He's a good receiver too.
Minnesota, good, yeah. He is deceivingly quick for his size. He's got good hands. He has carried a Minnesota offense that has been pretty dreadful at times under Tanner Morgan. They have not been able to move the ball at all passing last few years. They have really struggled. So when he went down injured last year, I wrote them off as a team basically. So it's going to be interesting to see. I hope he has a good year because I would love to see him as a Lion. I'd love to see him in those middle rounds as that workhorse back. It all depends on how healthy he looks.
Well, put it this way, he got injured game 1. His stats for the season were 163 yards and 2 touchdowns in less than a game. That's what he was doing. And he's
had a long time to recover, so I'm hoping he's fully fit. He's had an entire year almost to get ready, so I'm hoping he'll be fully fit. So I've not actually looked.
He's like the outside guy who could really break into that top 3 if he comes back and is anything like he was before. So I'm really rooting for him more than many others this year, just because of the injury. Look, and when it hit him, it was absolutely horrible in that regard. Out of any of these other guys, Chris Rodriguez from Kentucky, Charbonnet, we had a lot of love for UCLA last year. Deuce Vaughn had a great year at Kansas. Devon Akane did well at A&M. Any of them who were like piquing the interest for next year, or anyone who I haven't mentioned, to be fair? There are a lot more. Not mention Travion Henderson because he's not eligible next year. Otherwise, he'd be in a tier on his own. This time next year, we'll be talking about no one but Travion Henderson when it comes to running backs. But who else this year do you reckon's got a good chance? And who else would you like to see on the Lions, if anything?
I think Deuce Vaughn could have a career as a slot receiver because he is the best receiving back in this class. Everyone knows that Deuce Vaughn is the best pass back, catching back. He's a lot better pass catcher than he is a runner, and he has been superb in that Kansas State offense, because they've been sneaky good the last few years. Let's say with him, Skylar Thompson, who's been hurt a lot, so he's had a lot of pressure on him because there's been a lot of quarterback swaps. But without looking at his numbers, I'm pretty sure he's been very productive. He's one of those guys that gets as much receiving as much rushing. He gets lots and lots of touches out of the backfield as a receiver, and I think he has got a lot of receiving yards and touchdowns. So he could be an option. He's a bit smaller, but he could be that kind of passing option. He could be that kind of or Riddick kind of guy at the next level, maybe a slot receiver. I think with another good year, he'll get drafted. I like his chances.
Yeah, so in 2 years, he's got 2,046 rushing yards. He's got just shy of 1,000 receiving yards. Total 31 touchdowns over 2 years. That's not shabby.
Yeah, so he's a good asset in both offense. Yeah, he's one of the better dual guys. Like I said, that's why. Like I said, I think Juice might be I think Juice is a nickname. I'm not sure if it's his real name, but he's a good dual threat in both offenses. Zach Charbonnet started last year really, really well because UCLA got hot at the start of the year. It kind of cooled off towards the end because, like I said, I think he picked up some niggling injuries. He's big. He's strong. I don't think he's not too fast, but I'm not sure how it translates to the next level. Like I say, it'd be interesting to see if he has a big year, because I'm pretty sure, like I say, it might be Dorian Thompson Robinson's, I think maybe final year if he's gone. I'm not sure who the quarterback is at UCLA this year.
Oh, isn't it Dylan Gabriel who's gone there?
No, he didn't. He got to...
Oh, wait, he committed to
left
UCLA.
there.
He left, didn't he? Oh, no, he committed and then went elsewhere, didn't he? I swear there was a Gabriel to UCLA thing at one point.
Yeah, he was supposed to go there, but he went... he's at Oklahoma. He's the starting quarterback there this year.
Oh, of course
he's really, really good. I think that.
He's
going to be, I think, the best transfer quarterback in the portal. And that anyone can timestamp that. They absolutely love him. He has looked fantastic in spring camp. I think he's draft eligible. I don't think we mentioned him. I don't know.
We didn't.
I think he could be a sneaky draft pick this year.
Well, that's the thing I said. You know, this draft class has the potential to be excellent. I mean, obviously, we're 12 months away. A year is a long time in the life of a quarterback in the league, and just because that many names aren't visible outside of Stroud and Young now, who are unnecessarily up there are at least 10, 12 guys who I think can legitimately be top prospects in this draft if they have a good year. And like you say, he's one we didn't even mention, and we must have mentioned about 10 or 12 already. So, yeah.
I think next year's draft class for me, I think is way better than this year's draft class.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the positions are way more time. There's better running back. There's way better running backs. There's a lot better quarterbacks. There's some elite level tight ends as well. And that is a position I picked that I don't think we need, but I can name at least 2 or 3 guys that would surpass everyone in this class that are already getting talked about for next year.
Well, we've done this section here. So the 4 positions, just to recap, that I had. We had quarterback, we have had linebacker, we've had safety, we've had running back. For me, they are the obvious needs for the Lions next year, depending on where we're at. So we've gone through some of those guys and introduced some of the ones there to you. But, I mean, outside of that, I'm open to honourable mentions now before we close out the show today. Who else are you, any other position are you really, really, really looking forward to seeing play this year, and who more people need to know about?
SEC cornerback Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State. He is a cornerback in the hardest division. Last 2 years, 8 interceptions, 100 tackles. He got hurt in the middle last year. He has been a menace. He's only a sophomore as well, so he's coming into his junior year, and people are not talking about him. He is not in PFF's 2023 top 10 cornerbacks. PFF, you've made a big mistake there. I think if he's healthy, he'll have a big year on the Bulldogs defense. He gave LSU, I think, loads of trouble last year. I'd say 8 interceptions in 2 years. I'd say that is a fantastic return for your senior, for your sophomore and your freshman year. So he is someone I think that is going to be really talented next year. And if he does declare in his junior year, he's going to climb the boards. He is going to be someone that will get talked about a lot more at the end of the year if he has another good year.
Yeah, no, I'd agree there with that. I mean, corner potentially could be a need for us. We never know. We're kind of hoping that all these talented guys in our room sort of push one another, and 3 favourites emerge out of it who mean that we don't need to draft anyone. We've got the depth there, but yeah, the potential is there as well. So yeah, it's interesting to see. Is there anyone else who you want to give props to at this moment in time? Obviously, like I say, we've got forever to talk about the guys going forward, but we want to put some names out there now, and we can go back and go, I was first. I mentioned him.
A lot of people are talking about, let's say, Eric Gilbert, Brock Bauer, Michael Mayer, the Notre Dame tight end. He could be the best tight end next year. He could be and I say, if TJ Hawkinson has a bad year, at some point you're going to have to question, do we move on? Do we trade him because we don't want to pay him? To this point next year, do we need a new number 1 tight end? Like I say, people don't want to think about it, but people are going to have to say, like I say, unless he has a really big year, the contract is going to be really hard for me to swallow if we pay TJ. So there's guys to watch at tight end there. It's going to be, like I say, you got Brock Bowers, you got Eric Gilbert, like I say, you got Michael Mayer. So it's a position not to be slept on.
Laporta, is he
Sam
still
Laporta,
at Iowa?
Iowa.
Is Bowers eligible?
He had a
this
good
year?
year last year.
I feel like if Bowers was eligible, his name would be on an island at the top on its own. Is he? Last year, his freshman year?
I believe it was, yes. And a position we don't need, but I think has got a sneaky chance to one of the best in the entire division. Another Fighting Irish is Isaiah Foskey.
Yeah.
He had a ridiculous year last year. And people have got him at like edge 3, edge 4, edge 5. Like, this guy could be edge 2. This guy could be behind Will Anderson. If he has another ridiculous year like last year, I think the sky's the limit. I think he's a first-round pick next year.
Yeah, I mean, there are some good ones.
Just watch Notre Dame. Watch Notre Dame next year, and you're going to have tons of fun.
I agree. He's right up there. I think I only had, is it Breesy, the one at Clemson? Is it Breesy who's there? I can't remember his first name, but he's up there as well.
Yeah,
as the
defensive tackle, Brian Breesy, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I can never remember his name there, but yeah, like you say, there's a lot of talent coming out here, and there's a lot of players. I mean, the list of guys who you're looking for this year. I mean, doesn't Eli Ricks come out this year, cornerback? This will be his draft. So again,
Kelly Ringo.
Yeah.
5-star corner from Georgia.
The Stanford one, Q Blue, is it? The Stanford. I really like it. We talked about him last year on the corners, but is it Q Blue? He's called CQ Blue or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, he comes out this year. So if corner does go south, there are playmakers aplenty in the cornerback draft this year. So yeah, we'll dive down into more of these in detail as we come closer towards the season. But yeah, that's about everything in terms of guys who we're looking at this moment in time. Like I say, there is a lot of time to go through this stuff. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we get out of here today?
Nope. Like I say, that kind of sums up the whole year and this whole off season. Like I say, it's been a crazy year.
I know we were going to use this pod to... Michael Lucius has just joined the chat. Thank you for joining us, as always, Michael. Apologies, we are about to go off in a few minutes, but this was a big pod. There's a lot to go back and listen to, but, we always appreciate you coming in. We love chatting with you. I know we said this was going to be the pod where we talk about the USFL a little, but I'm guessing you just are trying to erase those memories from your brain at the minute.
Yeah, I have watched some of the games and I've watched a lot of extended highlights on YouTube. Some have been stood out. The USFL got it very wrong this year. They decided to play all the games in one city, in one stadium, and it has not worked. Everyone that doesn't support the Birmingham Stallions, because they're playing it in Alabama and Birmingham, all the rest of the games are just empty. That was a really bad decision on their part, I'd say. And funny enough, they're the best team as well. They've just signed Bo Scarborough. Like I said, they're now 5-0. Like I said, so yeah.
I love Bo. You have like that really high level of love for an ex-player. You just really shouldn't, because they didn't really do much. I have that for Bo. I just really love him as a player. When he came in at the back end of was it the 2020 season, and everyone had gone down injured, and Bo came in and played really well, and then we cut him. I didn't like the way we treated Bo after that, and I'm always rooting for him. So, yeah, I hope he does well there. I think he needs an opportunity back in the NFL because I see him as being at least a rotational guy in the back room. I'd still take him here. If I bring in Bo on in a situation to come in, I'd absolutely trust him, especially behind this offensive line. So, there's not many I'd take out the USFL at the minute, but Bo I would. Absolutely.
Shout out to former Lions quarterback, Jordan Ta'amu. He's on the Tampa Bay Bandits. I've been saying for the last year or two, like I say, that he could have been our QB3. He's playing really well again. Like I say, he's been on the Chiefs, he's been on the Lions, he's been in the NFL. He's still like 25. I still don't think he's played his best football yet. I still think he's going to find a way back in the NFL. He flirts a bit. He gets on the practice squads, he gets on the camps, but no, they're 3-2. So I will go over. I'm going to pick some players, like I say, next time in the episode, that did well in the USFL that will get chances back in the NFL. So I'll do a look into that and I'll watch some more highlights.
Yeah, we'll give them some love there, and they say good on Jordan Tiamo doing well. I know we never talked about this on the main pod, but after all that talking that we did about Stephen Montez being the potential 3 guy as well, he's gone. All that time we said he might be the guy there, and we protected him so much last year, and then he just disappeared. It's like, oh, what was that for? I guess he might end up in the USFL now.
Well, yeah, like I said, XFL, they've just announced their TV rights. I very much expect him to see in the mix for that as well. Like I said, it wouldn't surprise me to see him being one of the more profile names at the QB and that. So I suppose now with all these other leagues popping up.
Oh, well, we'll quickly talk about that before I go off there. But just before I do, I remember as we talked about the quarterbacks this year, and one Pride thought he left a message in the chat earlier, which I was always going to get back round to, but he goes, imagine if we signed Spencer Rattler. Notice how Spencer Rattler has been completely and utterly forgotten next year, to the point where he's not even in the top 50, well, not with us anyhow, but his fall from grace has been historic. But, I know we talk about the attitude problems, the issues and stuff like that, but trying to put the bias towards his horrible attitude to one side, if he has a good year with the Gamecocks and really sort of fulfills that potential we all think that he can, I guess he has to be under consideration as well, despite the fact that, the attitude is terrible.
Right, so without a doubt, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the nation. He's up there talent-wise, probably with CJ and Bryce. The attitude and the scenario wasn't right for him. I don't think he's been managed too well. He's been allowed to get away with things. Shane Beamer, he runs a tight ship. South Carolina Gamecocks, they will straighten him out. And I also think they can win 8-9 games in the SEC. Some people don't want to accept that. They brought in some really good players. They brought in Austin Stogner. They brought a tight end with him. Like I say, they brought in some high-level wide receivers. I think they could be really good. And I think he could still go in the first round next year, like I said, because he's got that aura around him, and like I say, he's got that swagger. Even if he's got a bad attitude sometimes, like I say, that he will probably win some games and play really well this year. So he's that kind of guy that if the Lions draft him next year, that loads of people are going to have a really bad thing to say about that. They're going to absolutely hate it. They're going to be like, he's a brat, I don't want him. But let's see what he does first. Let's let the kid prove himself. I think he has got it in him to put in a mature year and show that he has learned the lesson from, let's say, losing his job at Oklahoma to literally being tossed aside to now then making a big life decision. Where can he resurrect his career?
Almost sounds a bit like a current incumbent Lions QB. Had the world at his feet, it all went wrong, tossed away, and is now having to start off somewhere where the situation is tough. So, I don't think we've heard the last of him as Lions fans. I think people are going to forget about him until the season starts, and like you say, when the Gamecocks start winning games, his name's going to come back into circulation real quick. Just a shout out to everyone who has joined us this evening. We've had a few in on Twitch and on YouTube. If you've got any questions you want to ask us before we go off air, just get them in the chat now. Be a couple of minutes and then we'll be done. Just quickly before we do, we mentioned the USFL. The XFL have got their deal for 4 years going forward. TV rights, all that sort of stuff there. That a positive step for them? I mean, just very quickly we'll talk about it. We can talk about it in more depth as we go along, but seems like a good deal for them. Seems like a good platform.
Optimistic is the word I'll use. Do we think the XFL will be going in 4 years? I'm going to put this down as when all this is said and done, this will be a terrible investment for The Rock. Like I said, they spent hundreds of millions of pounds and took on lots of debt, I think, from Vince McMahon. And they bought very little. They bought the rights to what? Some names, some uniforms, the branding, which has also had lawsuits as well about original XFL and things like that. They didn't want them to use it. So much baggage. I think they've got a long way to go. Like I say, this is a good step for them, but to get this off the ground as well, like getting the players, getting the stadiums as well, because they need stuff to play. They have got a lot of stuff to do to get this back playing in 2023. It will not be easy. Like I say, I don't know. Like, it's so hard to see a league competing with the NFL. Like, really, like say the XFL and the NFL, they have to work together. They've got to be a point where they're a feeder. The XFL have to be a feeder. Like say the CFL, they're kind of the whole different entity because their rules. They don't want to get involved with anything America does. The XFL has to work with practice squads from the NFL. They've got to play their players. They've got to roll that in. They've got to get college. Otherwise, it will never be sustainable. But on the flip side, the USFL, people say, well, how can I watch it? It's impossible to watch because it's not on any channels. So to get it on ABC and ESPN, the XFL, is massive. Like I said, because people have those channels. I don't even know how I watch the USFL. I have to watch the extended highlights on YouTube. I don't even know if it's on a channel. I think you have to buy it, which is not the way to go around branding a new league. You've got to be able to give it to the masses. So I implore The Rock for getting this contract done because it's probably going to help him now secure big-time deals for past players and get some stadiums as well. So it's going to be interesting to see which franchises are reborn and who plays next year.
Yeah, like you say, it's going to be intriguing, and come close to the time, we'll put some focus on it as well and see what's going on. So interesting times for the USFL and XFL. So that is about everything from us today. Like I say, we just sort of wrapped up last season in a little bit of a bow and got everything in there, did a little bit of digging down into college. So we will be back very soon with our official second season of this. It'll be our first off season doing all this stuff, so it's going to be quite good. It'll not be long because I believe, am I wrong in saying that it's 100 days to the college season now? I think it's exactly 100 days till the college season starts, so a little bit of a milestone there. So
week 0, yeah.
Yeah, that is going to come around in no time at all. So we will be back. We're going to be going through the divisions one by one. I'm hoping to get some nice little snazzy graphics and start using those with them, so we can go through the teams, look at the quarterbacks, look at some of the good players, the players under the radar type stuff. We're going to do that league by league. It's going to be a lot of good fun. Just got to get that sorted out first. But thank you to everyone who's joined us during this first season of it, and hopefully you're back next year. We're just going to get bigger and better in regards to that. So thank you, all of you. Just remains to me to go through our socials for the evening, so I don't think there are any more messages anywhere. No, there are not. So on our socials you can... oh no, wait, next episodes. I should probably do that first. We've been on all 3 days this week. We will be back next Monday on the 23rd of May on our main Roar of the Lions UK podcast, unless any other minis appear before then, which we'll let you know about. At the minute, I think we're projected to do some way too early 53-man roster projections, and I know we all have a lot of controversial thoughts about who and who is not going to make that team, even at this point in time, so that's going to be a lot of fun and raise a load of talking points there. And like I say, with the college podcast, we're going to be back very soon, second season of this on and going, so do join us if you can, and have a look at some of the features that we've done this week so far. Like I say, we've had podcasts on Monday and Tuesday, so check those out if you get an opportunity to. Oh damn it, I missed a question from Ash about the primetime slate. I'll move that to another time because Florida State are in 2 of them. Florida State got 2 primetime games this year in college. That seems unfair.
Mike Norvell for you. Like I say, they've got a big draw.
Yeah, definitely, but they're going to get their ass handed to them by LSU at the start of the season, which is going to be fun. So yeah, in terms of our socials, you can find us all over the internet. So on YouTube, we're on Lions UK. Obviously, you're already on there now if you're watching. Thank you for everyone who's subscribed and that. We're over about 420 people now. It's going up really quickly, so thanks ever so much. On Twitch, you can find us at ROTL_UK. Thank you again to everyone who's signed up to us on there, and all the all the stuff we're getting on there. People are subscribing up to us, people donating. We absolutely love it. Thank you very much again. On Facebook, you can find us on our page Roar of the Lions UK, and then our Facebook group Detroit Lions Fans UK One Pride Worldwide. On Twitter, you can find us at ROTL_UK, same on Instagram, and then you can find us on our website www.roarofthelionsuk.com. There is a lot of content that has just gone up on there. So we've got all the rookie reviews. So Ryan has just done one on Chase Lucas, obviously Arizona State guy, no one better than to get the guy who's done it himself. I've got an article up on James Houston and one soon to come out about Malcolm Rodriguez. Ash had one out about Kirby Joseph. Matt has just released his one on Aiden Hutchinson. And we've got the rest of the rookies coming up and other bits as well. So keep a close eye on the website there. Always plenty of good content going up there. So it just remains for me to thank Ryan for this evening, to thank Hank for his guest appearance. He's obviously the most popular producer on this show. He's probably fast asleep by now knowing him. So yeah, fair play to him. But thank you to everyone who's joined us. We shall see you again on Monday.